All right. As Cobs would say, I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to hit the button. I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AnimationEpic live stream. We're hopefully going to be celebrating 700,000. We're getting dangerously close already, so it may happen any moment. Although we're not right up against it. We still have a few hundred to go. But thank you so much for coming on. We are excited to talk about the finale and anything else we want to get into here. It's pretty exciting. But we have a special guest with us today who has not been on the channel in a little while. So I want to give him a chance to introduce himself. Why don't you go ahead?
We can't hear you, buddy.
We were able to hear you for the last half hour, but not this exact moment.
It was literally the moment before we hit go live that he was totally audible.
Hold on. It's all good. We'll figure it out.
That is all right, man.
It's not
He's
like
overwhelmed by the 700K.
His job doesn't usually have to do with the auditory, so this is a little bit outside his comfort zone. So it's all good. Well, yeah. Hold on. Do we hear you?
What the heck happens?
Wait, John, say something.
Oh no.
Well, now he can't hear me even asking him to say something.
Oh no.
This is the coolest introduction known to live stream time.
So
Brian,
wait,
why don't
okay.
you reintroduce yourself?
Wait, we can salvage this. I'm gonna do John's introduction, but John, I need you to mouth the words while I do it, so people.
Oh, now we can hear you.
We can hear him.
Is this work?
Yeah,
I like that you heard okay,
excited.
and you were like, "All right, let's continue with this plot."
I'm telling you, man, the performer instincts kick in, and I'm like, all right, Justin, let's do this. Honestly, I still like it as an idea.
I am John Mead, and I am a musicy person for Inanimate Insanity starting in 2020 with Season 2, Episode 14, Hatching the Plan. I've been so excited to get back to Season 2 goodness. It has been a lovely little time. I am John Mead. I make music.
I appreciate the double for my name. I almost want to say that we should delay my introduction because we are less than 100 subscribers away from the 700,000 mark, and I think we're about to pass it. So
That whole bit was such a hit. The subscriber rate went way up.
No offense, John, to your introduction, which I'm sure will be incredible, but honestly, nothing could top that. Nothing could top that. It was incredible.
Oh, no,
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Keep going.
It went down.
Keep going.
Mute again.
In the whole world. I like making little music motifs for the characters. I like knife and suitcase and Mephone for us.
And Flory, my favorite is the floor. I mean, yeah.
Whoa.
The viewers disagree. Going down.
The viewers hate the floor.
Okay, wait,
This is
John,
always one of the most fun things about hitting a milestone.
Yeah.
John, do my intro. Let's flip it around. Let's flip the script. They're not expecting it.
Do I need to do a similar voice?
You got to go with what your heart tells you.
Hi, my name is Justin. I do things for Inanimate Insanity that John doesn't because we're two separate people with separate talents and attributes to share with the world. I do writing, I do voiceovering things, and I really like to send hearts in the John music cut notes, which make John feel very happy.
The viewers love it. The viewers love
Hey,
it. We're almost
that
there.
works.
We gave them what they wanted, everyone. It was clear. It was clear what everyone wanted.
Thank you, everyone. We don't need to introduce ourselves, Adam. We're good.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Have a good one.
Okay. We're going to be having a lot of fun today talking about what we've been up to and the big finale. We're going to wrap up introductions real quick. There's a few super chats that we probably should get to right after that, and then we'll chit chat. We'll have a good time. We won't be able to get to every single super chat, but we'll try to get to quite a few of them. But I'll wrap up my introduction by saying, hey everyone, I was Justin Chapman in the finale. I played the Justin bot. That's the important thing. But also like knife and meat pad and paper, goo, silver. And I've been having a delightful little time wrapping up the season. Oh, gosh. It's been like, oh my god. How many years were we were 11? It was 11 years.
11 years of our lives.
I was sobbing.
11 years went by
like,
in 11 minutes. Am I right?
We had
like
a,
it felt
we
like
had a theater
that.
screening. I was sobbing. I dyed my hair black to mourn. Like everything. It's crazy.
It looks good.
But,
Looks really good. Yeah. It's sick.
Good. It's some good morning. Quality morning.
No, what's up with this guy?
Oh, good point. Good point. I'm Brian. I voice the semi-canonically dead Brian Bot. That's probably the most important role that I had. I also tangentially, yes,
Brian.
Yes, exactly.
Brian.
And I wrote the movie just like as a side thought. And yeah, it's still surreal to me, the fact that it's actually done. And there are so many secrets and spoilers that I feel like I've kept at the tip of my tongue for years, and they feel wrong to say. I'm like, it's like gutturally wrong to talk about this stuff. So we're gonna try to heal and undo that process over the course of this stream.
Love that.
Yeah, then that means we have.
Well, before I get to as much as I loved the I'm John, I feel like I want to give John another opportunity to, in his actual voice, reintroduce himself to the viewers. So, John, why don't you do that?
Yes.
Adam, I deeply appreciate that. I was like, and Justin, I do appreciate your voiceover. That was a lot of fun.
I appreciate something about me. Quick,
Brian, I think your notes are easily the most concise, and I feel the most in tune with you with music synergy. I appreciate you. But the Justin smiley faces and Pokemon and other references make my day. And Adam, I mean, day ones, baby. What else? What else are you gonna do? Hi, my name is John. I'm the composer for Inanimate Insanity. I'm a professional musician. I work in an orchestra. I tour around the world doing that, but mostly I'm in New Zealand. So Oceania, homies, what's up? I've worked on Inanimate Insanity since season 2, episode 14, Hatching the Plan, as Justin so wonderfully and accurately stated. And if you have any questions on any music thing at all, Inanimate Insanity related, OST related, plugin related, technique related, it doesn't matter. I'm happy to answer any and all of your questions because I love doing it. I love working with these wonderful humans. And likewise with Brian, you get so used to keeping everything in that it feels wrong to be sharing in a public forum. So let loose. I'm happy to talk about the whole process. So thank you all.
It's awesome. I love the casual drop of I tour around the world, no biggie, just doing my thing, man.
The rest of us only tour around the country, the US. So we'll get to your level at some points.
No, nothing compares to creating Test Tube Tango, of course. So
golly riffing, exactly. Still such a bop, so good. This was a big year. We wrapped up. I mean, obviously the finale was huge. Season 2, over 10 years in the making, all that really great stuff. We also wrapped up season 3. There were 2 seasons that were wrapped up this year, which is crazy. We went on a national tour around the country with BFDI, which was amazing. So much happened this year. It was one of the best years ever. So we want to thank you all so much for all the support throughout the year. Like, we could not do all this without you. All now over 700,000 of you. So thank you so much. And the 1.2 million of you who watched just the last part of the finale, which is crazy. So there's some of you who didn't hit that button yet. So don't worry, we're still waiting on you. You have a chance if you want. But very cool. So we have a lot to get into. What's cool about this group too, the 4 of us, is that we have a bunch of different points of view here. We have the writer point of view, producer point of view, director point of view, composer point of view. So many different ways you can unpack all of the content that we've created throughout the year. So we're excited to dive in. But I know we got some super chats, so we want to, unpack here, Justin, as you stated. So if anyone wants to click on one, we can kind of dive right in here. Why not?
Yeah, that's an Adam and Brian thing.
Oh shoot, that's right. We're the only ones who can see it.
Yeah.
Well, I can see it. I just can't click on them.
I can't click. Yeah, same.
The privilege to click.
Yeah, there's a clear and strict hierarchy for the super chats. So
only people in the top row can click the
We're
star
down here.
I mean, Justin, I think
we're the goofballs down here.
given olive branch down to your lower rung, we could give you.
The way it covers Tom.
Yes.
Yay!
Hold on. Go ahead. It's for you, Justin. Take a read.
But you have to poke your head up a little higher as you read it, so it doesn't block your face.
Yeah.
I have to make it look like I'm like looking down at it.
Well, yeah. Once you read it, I'll take it down so that they can see. But yeah, there we go.
Hi, this is Justin. I just want to say that their work on II really inspired me as someone who's non-binary to start voice acting and motivated me a lot. Thank you. Gosh. Also, was there a character you found yourself related to? I can make them into it. I love you all. See, so it's not just about me. It's about loving all of us. We don't need the focus to be on me.
You're not getting off that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Firstly, that is so wonderful and delightful to hear. Voice acting is my favorite little thing in the world. So being able to spread the joy and love of the craft, the world, it's just like kaboom, you know. Just but characters really, characters I relate to most. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love writing bot, I love writing bots. Spring of the Breakfast was like one of my favorites to write, and like that was very, very centric with their character. What a little time that was. But oh my gosh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. I just love everyone here. I'm just like, I feel like I'm being all extra flustered because it's like end of an era kind of energy.
Yeah. No, we're
feel all the emotions. This is the time, you know, don't hold back. I feel like this is such an awesome thing that we all did together. And obviously we can't say it enough. The entire crew who isn't with us on this live stream today, like all of them were needed to make this thing happen because it was a beast of a finale, obviously. How many? An hour and 47 minutes alone?
Yeah, it was when we
Pretty
said
nuts.
movie, we went movie. We weren't being like, oh well, technically feature length running time is no.
I mean that was the goal from the start with it, and we knew, and we're like, but also we gotta chop it up into these specific acts,
yes,
to maximize the pain at the end of each of them.
Yeah,
we knew the break. Well, we knew we had the outline and everything. I think we knew what the breaks would be in the acts before we even started outlining. So.
Yeah, no, that was the North Star for sure of the 3-act structure of what those act breaks were. So ideally it can work as 3 individual episodes, but also it can work when it's all compiled together, which we will do. We did it in the theater, and we'll do it on YouTube as well. So stay tuned.
1000%. That was what was interesting too about the production process. This was a question that I was asked during one of the movie screenings. Was from a production standpoint, was it treated like 3 episodes, or was it literally this giant project that then you, after the fact, cut into pieces and uploaded? They were treated more as like episodes in terms of like how they were released. And I think what was cool about that was we got to see so much like audience speculation between the parts that if we had uploaded the entire thing off the bat, there'd be so many mysteries that it would just be out there in the open, you know, which has its own positives in a way. But it was really fun to see all of the fan speculation. And a lot of you were really on it. Like there were some incredible theories. There were some that were just really entertaining to read in general, just super, super smart, even if they weren't completely on the dot. And some were on the dot, which is amazing.
Yes.
Well, that's one of the best things about creating art is then the arts that gets created as a response. And that doesn't just mean like visual art media. Like it could also just be analytical, you know, discussion, and that's its own form of art in a sense. And just it's the communication with audience and fans, and then replication, and they become their own creators, and then people, you know, respond to them in a big way. And it's like it's just this amazing domino effect of love and craft and art. And oh my gosh, it's been a really wonderful time.
Yeah, and our philosophy with the predicting is, I think we want it to be that you're able to predict it, but it's not predictable, I guess, if there's, you know, there's kind of a difference there. So it was great to be able to plant different things like, oh, we like have that shot that's of Soap's phone at the end of Act 2. And some people read into that and remembered the part in Act 1 about like, oh, seeing in the recently deleted folder, and were able to like be like, oh, maybe that means something. Some people thought maybe Bo possessed the phone and that's why the phone was pink. That was something that was really interesting that just went off in its own, like, oh, like sometimes it takes on a life of its own of like, we wouldn't have thought people would have even interpreted it that way necessarily. But it's fun to see all the speculation, whether accurate or inaccurate. Ultimately, it was all heart-filling. Yes.
For the inaccurate ones, I've always had this question because like at the end of Act 1, right? I see the timeline blow up. I see all the theories, and it's beautiful and wonderful to read, right? From the perspective of you three who are doing far and away the most important job of writing the show, how often will you see a theory or see a conspiracy type of thing on the timeline and be like, oh, we should have done that? Like how often does that happen?
I think you just can't get in your own head about that too much. You have to just be, and it was easy on this because the movie, like, I really tried to, as much as possible, envision it as like a full 3-act piece instead of just like, oh, this comes out and then that, whatever. So like, it even came down to little things that I feel like people won't necessarily notice of like, oh, I remember I said, hey, Adam, let's throw the picnic tables into the backgrounds and more shots in Act 1 because that was going to be like the big thing. And again, I'm like stopping myself from saying it, to kill Cobs in the end. Like, I'm
right,
right.
I get
so,
that.
Like,
yeah,
there were several things like that. So people would come up with those, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's really cool," or like, "Oh, like And sometimes it would even be stuff where it's like, "Oh, like maybe we would predict people would think it's like, oh, bot like leads like a sort of rebellion that like helps defend me, whatever." So like these were things that we thought about.
We
so
talked a lot about can
Yeah.
bot be in the finale, what that would look like. But yeah, I mean, you brought up the good point of like, it's got to be the season 2 story.
Yeah, exactly. It has to service the season. It has to be the story that we're telling. But yeah, I mean, very often, like you could see something and just be like, oh, that's a great idea. I mean, you write it. I'd love to then read it.
Fine, okay, I will.
Fine. Yeah. So
and I feel like too, if you were to theoretically see a fan theory in advance before something was released and go, oh, that's really cool. Actually, let's switch gears and do that. There's inevitably going to be a piece from a previous thing that just wasn't meant to hook up to that. And it's going to open up a can of worms. I feel like if that wasn't the original direction, it's hard to seamlessly get into that. I feel like as a creator, as a writer, if you're going in a specific direction and you pivot, you're going to feel it at some point. Like there's going to be one or two things that aren't going to connect.
After the you first. I love your voice.
I feel like a fan now, and I promise I'm not taking the shine away from the super chats. But then, if I can ask, have you ever deviated from a plan or an overarching arc in season 2 or season 3?
We had to flip Cabby's whole story. Does that count? Because we initially
the prospective winner,
specifically because of audience, though, or
for whatever reason.
Because in that case, it was just we had initially planned for Cabby's story to be more of a one where like she's as opposed to start in a negative lens and then progressively be seen more positively by those around her. The initial conceit was like kind of the flip, where like she would be betrayed at the before the first elimination, come back from a definite, and then like have that like seeking revenge vibe to her,
it was
and
the
then
inverse,
use the files for nefarious purposes. And the way that then we started writing it seemed kind of turned that early on, where it's like, okay, well, we're hitting this kind of perception of Cabby really early. So by the time that Cabby was coming back, it's like, okay, well, let's we got to kind of inverse this, and it works out for the best because I love.
You can see part of it too, like even in the early invitational episodes, even when Cabby's like, "Oh, I only wanted it to help us," and like is seemingly very friendly. I feel like a lot of the audience took that away as like, "Oh, she's conniving. She's up to something."
Because she was up against Fan and Test Tube, and people loved those two already. So anyone who's up against those two must be baddie bad.
For sure. Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even as much about like the comments as it is just like you get a feel for the show as developing it. Because I think a lot of it is, oh, these characters work really well together. Like Silver Spoon and Candle Those were characters that, you know, you throw them together like in the first episode, and then you just realize, oh, this is a really good pair. So you keep writing to that more and more. And then it's like, oh, because originally Silver was going to betray Candle. But then we were like, we can't do that. That's too much.
Yeah.
It just didn't, it wouldn't have felt authentic to the relationship between the two characters because it had grown so much that it was like the characters were telling us, no, we wouldn't do that.
And then like in a meta sense of that change, I mean, let's get to super chats right after this. In the meta sense, that really changed because episode 11 is very much like Candle kind of defies the destiny in which she's theoretically eliminated because she has this, you know, precognition, but she also learns to like kind of like fight for her own self. And then, you know, switches to the other side and, you know, values the self-preservation of it all that she probably wouldn't have otherwise. But in saving herself, that was the episode in which we were thinking about eliminating her. So she kind of escaped it on elimination on you know, a meta level and, you know, in show, which always makes me tickles my brain.
Silver and Candle were both characters that lasted longer in the show than they were originally written to, which is awesome. And it shows that we as a team really love them and wanted them to be on screen even longer.
It's hard to know with the newbies early on how much we'll gravitate towards writing for them. But I'm glad we were able to adapt as we went. But do we want to get to some more super chats?
I have a good one here. This is a fun one. From Ron, I still love Mephone X. Is there any more info on X? What happened? What happened to X?
I think that was another funny thing to develop because I feel comfortable saying to the same spirit of like, oh, was it all like planned out like ahead of time? And like certain things are for sure. I think we obviously knew that X would be an important factor in the finale. It's just the degree to which that was the case that I think we developed because that whole thought of like, oh, we had the thing of like this sort of zombie apocalypse style, everyone's getting taken out and deleted over time. The idea of X being the vessel for that in this like cool horror movie style way wasn't something that was necessarily the case before. It's like, oh, like who's this? So a lot of the time, what this kind of thing ends up being is that you're having to like take disparate pieces of the story and make them fit together. So then you realize, oh, instead of coming up with a new thing for this threat to do, you put them into that slot and then it makes sense. But I guess to answer the question more specifically, I think people have keyed into the fact that there's sort of a tragedy in the way X goes out, which is that like so much of them is like they're not even autonomous. It's just kind of like they're carrying out the will of whoever's controlling them at that time, whether it be Toilet or Cobs. But one thing that he does himself is save his creator and die in doing so, which is really sad and messed up and probably deserve to happen. So, you know,
why did he do that?
and Cobbs is like, thank you for that, is just shove him off of himself. But you know,
I was gonna say, one of the most striking things to me is that moment when Cobbs, you know, is saved and just throws him off of him, because this is moments. Obviously, it's broken down between 17 and 18 for the episode. I also hear an echo. I don't know who that's coming from. Okay. Well, maybe we all mute one at a time.
It stopped.
Oh, okay. It did stop. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway. Point being, Mephone 4 and Cobs have an interaction, you know, just moments later. It's been broken up by episode. But before that point, Cobs is obviously trying to, you know, sweet talk Mephone a little bit. We'll reboot it. You know, we're going to make everything great again. You've already seen what he's done to his other creation. Like, he's shown, get off of me. I hate you. Right. So you can see right through it in the next interaction. But I just thought that was really fun.
But Cobs is still a good guy, though.
Yeah, he's such a sweetie. He's so nice.
Oh dear. I like this question.
Yo, bro.
I love your music.
What's up, bro? I love my music too. Thank you.
I love your music. It covers your face.
Yeah, there we go. Now we can see you again.
No, I could do the same thing. Just like start like getting
there you go.
But I mean, I honestly I owe this show so much because it's y'all and the show, like the natural hijinks of the show, just give me so much room to experiment, to go all over the place, and just do whatever I want, you know. of course, getting reined in a couple times. I think there was one moment in season 3 where I wanted to have like the last minute or so. It was like luck evading nickel. Well, you know that
Yes.
scene.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, where I just wanted it to be super ragtime honky tonk, but like I forget who it was, but it was like yeah, it just didn't fit the rest. It was just too much of a market departure. But yeah, thanks. I mean, like I don't know. I really cherish every single comment or email or DM or whatever. I really really appreciate it because you don't get it that much in classical music. So it's nice to do a little funk, do a little EDM, do like 45 minutes. I was just sitting there staring at the end of Act 1, like this is like mind breaking stuff,
Yeah.
and I wanted to have well and forgive me, I don't know if it was like some person writing the notes or if it was all three of you, but it was
Oh,
that yeah it
Yeah.
was Brian.
Right.
Yeah,
Brian,
there we go.
that specifically said make this like nothing else in the show.
Yeah. Which is
And
easy to write as a note for you.
yeah, but that's what's so perfect is none of this music is as good without these three directing it, because I had to lock in. Once you said that, I was like, all right, well, something's got to go down, and yeah, and I'm really happy. Specifically, I think my highlight, one of my highlights. There's many I could talk about, but one of my highlights of the movie is the Cobb villain boss evil time music, which by the way was I was heavily inspired by, I think it's, what's it called, Ex Machina, the movie.
Oh,
Have you-
mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't think I can recommend it to be watched in this stream, but what I can say is I can definitely recommend the OST, because like, oh my god, the coldness of it and the synth sound. Yeah, I just really was inspired by that.
Well, John, this kind of gets into a question we have here that I think would be really great for you to answer because it's kind of already, on the right track.
A really good question. Yes. Oh, sorry. I should read these out loud for those not looking.
Yes.
John! Exclamation mark. Question for you: do you have motifs in mind for every character, or only specific characters? All right. This is where I have to, in a very guilty way, say, unless directed, it really actually depends on how much I like the character or how much I don't like the character. Because either way, you'll get a motif, right? Like for instance, Cobs, not the biggest fan. The big fan of the popcorn though. But so
Yummy.
so of course, because there's super negative connotations, like it's easy to write music, or when Cabby was scheming in earlier episodes, super easy to write. Silver Spoon, what fantastic voice acting, and just from that voice alone, I swear to you, from that voice from that voice alone, I really mean it. That motif, it was like the first thing I wrote, and it's just stuck, and we just changed it. So I guess the short answer is, but then there's like Life Ring, who like I was ambivalent about, to say the least. But it's written in the music notes in the John cut. We need like a motivating speech that gets hilariously cut short by Blueberry's like sad pessimistic outview of that challenge at the moment. And so I probably wouldn't have written anything substantial for Life Ring unless acted on. I did see a couple chats. I love the floor. The floor is my favorite. Big fan. Like the body swap episode was so much fun. Not only because of the fight music, but just was it paintbrush? That
Paintbrush on the
Paintbrush
floor.
on the floor switch, yeah.
like I love the lore that is so incongruous that doesn't matter, and it's just
Yeah.
goofiness.
The
But
right
then,
spot.
and then for my serious answer, I really like Mike and Suitcase. I feel the even I feel the vulnerabilities of those characters very intimately, and so I think it was really easy for me to write their themes, and it's why Mike's theme is basically an interpolation of the ending credits for season 2, episode 14, and what I turned into the going away for the end of season for the movie as well, because it just sounded
I'm
nice.
glad you were able to write for me despite my lack of insecurities.
Yeah, well, Silver Spoon was everything I've ever wanted in a character, where the dialogue, both the writing and the delivery, just so perfectly fit that I again, that's one of those moments where I didn't have to, like with Cobs, I really had to think. I like think about it with Cobs, right? You can't do, or at least I didn't feel the inclination to do like a super Bond villainy, like really loud brass or like Darth Vader march, because like the evil of Cobbs or the anti goodness, the you know of Cobbs is not that. And so it's like I really had to think of like, how do I want to portray these emotions, right? With Silver Spoon, I knew exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am who I am.
Dude, you nailed it in that. Yeah, in the end of Act 1 scene, because it's exactly what you said. It's not the Bond villain monologue. It's this guy sitting behind a desk and kind of telling it like it is, sort of, and that's what's unnerving about it. And it was so, yeah, and it's hard because that's a big juxtaposition from everything we'd seen of the character before that point, including in that same episode with Future So Yesterday, where it's just like so bombastic and pop and everything. And then you just kind of come in, you're like into the lion's den, and it's just this guy like, oh, hello. Like you're and the longer you sit there, the more you're just like, what is the deal here? It's like waiting for that other shoe to drop. And then when it drops, it falls and it really hits. So, and it's so much, people like they don't understand how much of that is then made by the score coming in, because like when we watch the episode with the score, it's like a whole new experience for us. We're like, oh, now it's the thing, you know. Yeah.
There's so many stages, and something that we've talked about on the stream before. We literally have a step in our process that we call the John cut, which is literally the cut of the episode that we give to John to do the music on top of. And usually that's any combination of whatever storyboards we have available or animation, depending on how far with each sequence we get. Because a lot of people assume, okay, you start at the beginning and you animate until you get to the end. It's not the case at all. A lot of the times it's you have the entire episode, you break it down into however many scenes, or, you know, usually the average scene is around 45 seconds for animators. Sometimes it can go up to a minute, sometimes they're even shorter, whatever it may be. But people are animating all around the episode. So at a certain point, it's just kind of random, whatever footage we have in at that point. And that's what John over here has to work with. Sometimes there are scenes that we don't even have any visual information for. Although recently it's been a little more rare that that's happened. But so, John, what do you feel like how is that process like? And if you have scenes that don't have any visual information, does it make it easier, harder, or is it kind of a wash?
I think that's why I always compliment the voice actors, because even when I get like Cobs, like, oh my god, what incredible talent. You know, like I mean,
absolutely insane.
There are times where, especially for the what is it, opening of end of Act 1, I only keep bringing it up because it was really quite challenging, you know. And once I got that music, it's easy in Act 2 to just continue that music and modify it as needed, but the actual creation of it was much harder. The voice actors do a lot for me, Adam. That's a really good question, honestly, because if I don't have a scene and, you know, I just get like the text log or the script of what's happening, you know, on the screen, that's fine. But it's the sound effects, even if I didn't have that, like if I just had a black screen, which also, you know, barely happen, but sometimes happen. The voice actors and also the sound effects, both Pretty much, yeah. I'll glaze Justin till the end of time. I mean, it's so deserved. Well, what's really nice actually is I don't know if it's done on purpose or not. Maybe it's just a good ear, but I actually find it really easy to merge the music with the sound effects, no matter what was chosen,
good.
and that's been a
that's
lot of fun
cool.
for me. Like if the we actually already spoke about it. I think the body swap fights scene, the tournament start. There's a, jeez, I'm gonna have to get used to this. There's like a dun 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 ding. And same with the buzzer for the final line
void.
race. In the
Yeah,
void.
yeah.
In both cases, wait. By the way, they're not the same, right?
No,
I don't think so. Yeah.
What's not the same?
But
the sounds.
the sounds, the buzzer for the tournament fight and the buzzer for the void.
No.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, just checking.
Yeah,
But
they are not.
in both cases, it was a lot of fun to like use whatever pitch the buzzer ended with to start and use that pitch as the key. So like let's say it was B, it's usually like let's say it's F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, B for the sound effects, then I'll just choose B minor because it's got both of those in it and it melts together. So that's an example of where like even if I don't have the animation, the sound effects and the voice acting do my job and the notes do my job for me. Again, thank you.
I do want to comment on the notes,
No
and
problem.
then I promise we'll get back into the super chat.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I really commend you on, John, too. I always am very vocal about I have absolutely no musical talent. I'm not going to pretend to know any of the musical terms at all. So when we, especially with episodes that I've written in the past, and typically also for the viewers, typically, not always, but typically, the writer of that said episode usually provides the music notes for John to work off of. There have been exceptions, but that's at least the norm. So for episodes I've written, a lot of my notes are just about vibes and feelings, and there's no technicality at all. And John is always able to take that and know exactly what I'm thinking, and I'm always so impressed by that. Because I feel like I'll look back at it and be like, this was absolute nonsense. Like, I don't know how he got that result.
I feel like John doesn't want us to try to use
No,
musical
I think that's
technical
more
terms.
insulting if we try to get
because we will
Fair.
fail. It makes it
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, Justin's pretty spot on, but I will say, can I actually mention the slight difference? Am I allowed to mention what I appreciate, like the slight differences between all three of your notes?
I don't care. I
Yes.
say
No,
sure.
Please,
I love
please.
No,
Okay.
please.
I wanna
love
know.
this
Would
kind of
love it.
stuff. Yes.
Because I already mentioned.
I would love it.
Okay, I already mentioned Justin's a little bit, and this is a behind the scenes look for y'all too. Because like again, when I get the cut, like usually I'd say, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. Usually like 60 to 70% of it's animated, and then like the next 20 to 30 is in some stage of animation. But like Adam is telling 100% the truth. He every time I know it's his episode, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good at knowing which one of you it is, because Adam will include one disclaimer per page, because there's gonna be like 12 pages of notes, y'all. You know, like it's these things are not short, but Adam will always include one disclaimer per page, being like, not a professional musician, like go with your instincts, I trust you. And of course I appreciate it. And it is a joke, of course, that the other way to know it's an Adam episode is if I get comments about the elimination scenes.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
Specifically in season 3, the Survivor Tribal Council elimination scenes,
Yeah.
I'm very, very particular
We'll pull
on.
an
But I know
exact
it's something the
reference.
viewers, they've really loved having, like even the episode where Candle got voted out and it was like a very specific theme. That was really cool. So a lot of viewers were like, when you release the season 3 album, we want every iteration of that elimination theme in there, which is really cool that people were able to pick up on that and want all of those tracks.
Yeah, you're right. It meant a lot to me too, because I was like, oh, y'all really paid attention to that, And then I will say again, like I think because Brian's are the most technically descriptive from pretty much, from a musical perspective, like the time codes or not time codes, because everyone includes the time codes and everyone's great with the time codes, but like when this action occurs on screen, this specific sound should be happening, or this specific emotion should be ramping up. It really makes it like a paint by numbers thing, where of course I know I have the liberty to do whatever I want. And I hope these DMs never get leaked, but I do sometimes send sassy emails to all three of them being like, please can I do this thing? I really want to do this thing. And then Justin's are easily the friendliest and most filled with love and unconditional support. I also appreciate that. I will say Brian's, when they include references, are most often towards other Inanimate Insanity episodes, and then Justin's will have the most references, but most often to non-Inanimate Insanity stuff, which again is really fun for me because
it's because I'm not a big II fan.
Yeah.
And what about me, John?
In the past, try to fix
you know, the only references you give me are Survivor.
Yeah, let's go.
I don't think you've done a single reference that wasn't like, oh, can we have it like the first 12 seconds of this season, this episode, and I want this thing, you know?
Unless it's like a very specific reference, probably not. Yeah, that makes sense.
For me, it comes more down to a leitmotif thing, because like I'll throw you some like I remember when we did Murder Mystery, I was like, take some Knives Out, take some After Party, take some this or that, you know. But like,
take some Death Note.
Sure. I mean,
Death
clearly
Note.
you did. Yeah. So those
Just
are
a
all.
little bit.
Yeah.
What
That was
scene
such
was
a
that
good theme.
from?
Yeah.
What
Which
scene was
one?
that from the Death Note? Was that the anime when they were like? Was that the Grossers
They were
one?
voting, right?
No,
Is
no,
that
no.
the season 3 finale?
Actually, it came
No,
up
it was
twice.
it was the
It did come
fourth
up
one.
twice. In the finale, but first it came up in Blueberry, the fake death for Blueberry stuff. The plan unraveling and all that.
Oh yeah. And then the second one, is that the one I'm remembering, where it was like the increasingly
The dramatic little voting thing
convoluted.
To me, that scene where they were all voting for the winner at the end of season 3, and there was like that montage of them debating which button to press. Like that to me was the Death Notiest thing we've ever had in the show in terms of set.
Wait,
I loved
now I gotta look it up now because I very, very like opaquely referenced it when what is it, the moment where they had to make 50 episodes, you know, like they had to make
that's
a ton
the
of
show
episodes.
must go on. Yeah, that's the finale. Yeah,
that's actually the moment that I intentionally used it.
Oh, okay.
So there might be some other bleed throughs because you know I do enjoy
For sure.
some anime here and there, but now I gotta look back at the other potential Death Note inspired moments. What was the one in the finale that you were talking about?
Yeah, Justin, you go. Oh, you're on mute now too.
Yeah, the beginning of
there you go.
The beginning of the track for a few seconds sounds very similar to L's theme from Death Note when they start voting for the winner towards the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah. That was just reused. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha, makes sense.
Yeah.
Livy asks a really good question here. I don't know if you guys answered this already, but who's your favorite duo in the show? Now, I know a lot of us have maybe a few different answers to this, but I thought it'd be a fun answer. It's a tough one. I'm going to say Mead and Taco is one of my favorite duos. I feel like they don't get brought up often enough, but I love their dynamic and just how they brought so much positivity to each other.
Here's a tricky little thing in that before the finale happens, right? For years I've been like, guys, don't sleep on the knife and suitcase.
Yeah.
And then now that the finale's out, it's like, okay, everyone knows that one already. So
no, but that is what I was gonna say. I think it's definitely
Go
not
on,
because to me they're the heart of the season ultimately. And it was just, there was something so special about planting like little things over the years, like knowing that it was building to that conclusion of like they'd have these shared moments of like random act of kindness back to, and everything's AOJ, or of course like the scene on the dock and kick the bucket, you know, these moments that were like really kind of shaping what would ultimately be their arcs of kind of role reversing, as Mephone says, but in a way like finding each other and helping each other like become the best versions of themselves. So for me, that's very special. But there are many good answers to this question. Yeah.
Oh gosh, Kaboom. Oh gosh, it's just so exciting. I'd love those too. I mean, but on top of that, like Silver and Candle were so fun to write for.
Yeah.
Bod and Cabby, Bod and Goo. Oh gosh.
Bod and Goo were really fun.
Bod and Goo's
yeah.
I love our little Cheer Factory. Oh gosh.
Cheer Factory was great. That Cheer Factory and Silver and Candle would be my two, because Cheer Factory was like the funniest music to write, and then the scene where Silver loses control, like that hurt me. You know, like that scene where their relationship was strained and tested.
Oh yeah.
That actually like hurt, and so that has to be my favorite duo just from an emotional standpoint. Like Silver,
iconic duo, Yin and Yang.
I want to talk about too Suitcase and Knife really quick also, because we were talking about, you know, Brian, you mentioned the scenes in previous episodes that ended up having so much relevant importance to the ending. I feel like that's what was really hard in an elimination based show, where obviously if you were to reveal the winner, it would ruin kind of a lot of like the entertainment value for a lot of people. So it's putting in that narrative importance and making sure the viewer knows how important these two characters are without revealing the outcome and making it obvious. That's a really hard through line to maintain. And I feel like even with the final four, with Light Bulb, Baseball, Knife, and Suitcase, it's still a lot of people, it was not a runaway. People did not know who would win. And I think that is genuinely hard to do if you're really maintaining the storyline.
Well, the fun thing about having secret protagonists, which is how I kind of like to think of them at times, is that I think what you need to do is you have to have full faith in your ensemble, and you have to be willing to do an episode. Like, because then Kick the Bucket was huge for Suitcase, but then we jump right into alternate reality show, and it's a light bulb test tube episode. So to have that willingness to like shift the focus at times, and, you know, just kind of like go on these whole different arcs, is part of what I think keeps the viewers guessing. But it also, at the same time, it can't just be about deviate. It's not just a distraction. It's also like a genuine effort to like make sure that character is well served. Because to me, I'm going into the finale movie being like, well, shoot, we still got to serve baseball, you know? And like, you would think that would be like not high up on the list, but it was like, that's something where it's like, oh, I want him to be able to like kind of come to terms more with the fact that like, you know, he's not being avoidant of conflict in the way that he used to be, and instead kind of embraces the role, even if it's like he'll mess up, he'll still like try. So like, you know, that there's like a long list of different things to happen, but like just because there are some characters that in a way become the main characters doesn't mean you forget your ensemble.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a big thing for us too. Light Bulb and Baseball, I love them both a lot.
Yeah.
But like I think, you know, we knew going into like mapping out the last few episodes of the season, not just the finale, that Baseball would probably shine the best after elimination. Fan had a similar situation. But like, you know, you have episode 15 where it's like, I think you could come out of that being like, oh, Light Bulb was the successful leader and Baseball's the you know, always strikes out and all that. But it was really important to us to kind of give Baseball that moment where it's like, well, this is the value Baseball brings to the table. Because when things get really serious, like Light Bulb can handle serious things, obviously, but Baseball like can be proactive. And it was really good at being able to bring people together and not just trying to lighten things up, because that was never his specialty, but it doesn't need to be.
For sure. I think Baseball as a character is so interesting to unpack too, because we were talking earlier in the live stream about with the season 2 finale, you know, the process of uploading it into episodes versus if we were to dump it as one giant movie online. I feel like the episodes are very similar too with Baseball as a character. Because when episode 11 happens, and Baseball is obviously not very happy with Suitcase, is very bitter about the whole situation. That's around episode 12 and 13. Then, you know, the episodes progressively get slower to release, and we ultimately take a 4-year break between 14 and 15. So the way baseball is remembered by so many audience members is that he's, upset and he's bitter and he was so friendly and then all of a sudden he became mean and boo. But if you were to just watch all of the episodes in succession, the progression episodically makes sense because episode 11, he feels betrayed. 12, he's very upset, but narratively not a focus. 13, him and Suitcase have an interaction. It's a little awkward, but they're starting to talk. And 14, they have a meaningful interaction on the dock and they start to make up ground. And 15, they're in a better spot, not fully healed, but it's a progression. But I feel like because of the way it was released, the way he's taken as a character really changes. Cobs is another example. When episode 16 was released, the He Made You ending, which obviously was one of the biggest lore drops we've ever had on the show, if not the biggest, it flipped the perception of what a lot of the viewers were thinking about the characters, because now it became, wow, Cobs is actually the one being truthful to them. Mephone's the one that's been lying. Is Mephone the villain? What's going on? If you were to release the entire thing as one movie, it would be released and just out there, which is, again, cool in its own right. But it was really cool to have the viewers have to really unpack who these two characters are and is Mephone a reliable narrator? Because we're seeing so much of the show through his perspective. And maybe it was all not true. Maybe it's all lies. Do we even know what's going on as viewers?
It let you put yourselves in the shoes of the characters more and having to really wrestle with that information, which, clearly you did. And it was very fun in a sick, twisted way to watch everyone's reactions. But
but it's cool.
I found myself asking a question because I don't think the audience knows this, but I think I've mentioned it on Twitter once. But I always actively try to avoid spoilers as well, right? Like I never want you guys, unless needed, I don't want to know what happens in the episode because I want that ability to experience that episode, for the first time, in the cut. I wonder if this gets a little too heady, but I did want to ask my first thought when the He Made You stuff went down, and you see the drawings also of like always strikes out, or this is why Tissue's always sick, like because of Mephone's design. And then you have Knife talking about like, oh, I want to overcome this part of myself that now I don't know if it's like in a descriptivist way, like I have to be like this even though I don't want to. What aspects of the character are the characters able to overcome? Like,
It's a great question.
That's like the central thesis of the show, basically.
Which is a tough feat. Like we had to like sprinkle in elements of that before this point because people don't, we have the twist in mind when we're writing all this stuff, and obviously the thesis comes from like essentially that. But before that point, you still have to have things like Marshmall's at the mansions. Like I'm not really about this thing that I've been about for so long. And but from our perspective writing it's like, oh, she was literally built for this thing that she's now running away from. But sorry, did I interrupt you? What were you saying?
Oh,
Brian?
I was just gonna say, it's the central thesis of the show ultimately, and I think to a certain extent it's fine-tuned over time. But like it's kind of this thing where at first it was you're grappling with the reality show element of it all, of like, okay, there are these certain archetypes that they have to be fighting against. I think as the story progressed, it became more about like, well, Mephone, like since we are building to this twist of Mephone having created them, and I can say it, okay, phew. It's like, all right, yeah, that's sort of something with him in mind. So then you kind of project back onto this thought of like, okay, as kids coming up with the characters, what were then you thinking in a meta way? And that kind of all then gets assigned to Mephone then as a character. So, but I think in terms of the ultimate triumph of it is hopefully to be able to bring both the contestants and the audience to this lowest low of like, well, shoot, are they condemned to these fates of just what's already been predetermined for them of like, oh, like baseball could never like succeed in any way? Or is it something that they are able to, as we foreshadowed in Afterlife and the Limelight, transcend, right, is the key word. I think Ben put it really beautifully in those lyrics to the II song, which was the whole metaphor about like someone being made in the music industry, right? And the whole idea of like, you may have made me, but you don't make me who I am, you know? So that's really then the core idea, that you can overcome these limitations that have been imposed onto you. But if you lose yourself in the character, because it could be both like a hindrance to you, or also just like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Because I think for Knife, what you were keying into was this whole idea that it's like, oh, Knife thinks that he needs to get away from the archetype of the anger, but he needs to be willing to embrace it on a certain level, and it's more about channeling it and directing it into something productive. So it's both the thing of, okay, we aren't that, but also we can be that. And it's up to you to decide who you are and when you are.
One of the things that, like,
okay,
firstly, agreed. Secondly, you mentioned Afterlife, and the quick fun facts that at least it's just the thing that's been in my brain for so long. You mentioned we have the lyrics. It's not meant for us to transcend, which is always meant to be, you know, because we've always, you know, long term. It's like, okay, they're gonna play Redline game eventually. And the purpose is to then sever themselves from Mephone and make sure, because there's always this question of that they'll have to deal with, like, the whole time, were we following like the strings that Mephone laid out, or was that just the starting points, and how much of this was us? But once they sever themselves, they know they are absolutely not even a single chance still connected to Mephone, and they are their own people. Not meant for us to transcend was always meant to be alluding to that. But also, one of my favorite lyrics that relates to that is not even in the in-episode version of the song, because the extended version has and it would be a shame if we stayed what we became. And that's like that's like so core to the message there, because that it's gosh, I love that we have that in the extended version, because it's so key there. But that's every character too. What were we gonna say, Adam?
I was gonna say even something as simple as their role in the game, because they were all theoretically designed to play this game. Throughout the series, multiple characters have expressed their different opinions on the game. Some of the characters, like Marshmallow and Microphone, expressed that they didn't even want to be in the game anymore. So that alone, if we're getting into like the really like just cut and dry of it all, I feel like that alone shows that they can transcend what they started out to do.
Yes.
Which is awesome. That's a little bit more direct. One thing, as deep as this conversation has become, this is actually really, really the only reason. I mean, thank you, James, so much. I appreciate that you really want me to hit the gritty. James has asked multiple times for me to hit the gritty. Does anyone know how I do this?
I actually don't.
That's a trap.
Okay, that's the
I think this is for you and Google and YouTube tutorials. I think this.
I could dab.
I could do it and add dab on the screen if that's hitting the gritty, because James has promised me their kidney, and that's a pretty good offer. So, without further ado,
oh wow!
There you go, James.
Yeah, that was.
All right, let's do a super chat lightning round, because I feel bad for all the people that are like giving money.
Okay, James, Adam, please hit the gritty. My mommy,
you
my
can't
soul
do
is
it
yours.
sitting down. It's the problem. We need to.
Yeah,
you
need where,
is it an active? I need to be up. Wait, another one
like,
from James. Adam, you better hit the gritty. So I'm just saying, I wanted to make sure that James had that. That's all.
Here, have you seen the fan animations of Steve Cobbs hitting the gritty? That
Oh shoot! Is that the
it's that thing.
Yeah, it's that one.
That's the one.
Like got my cam or my headphones, but I can try to do this.
Oh yeah, there
we go. That's what
I can't move very far.
That's what they're waiting for.
Let's lightning round it as John.
Well, that's okay. It's like I'm getting a tutorial.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'll uncover you so you can.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I got a kaboom. You know, just
that was quite the gritty being hit. I loved it.
Okay,
it was fantastic.
I kind of combined it with the dab there, so.
Fira fan asked like an hour ago if everyone acted like Box was sentient. Well, besides Trophy LOL, did everyone fake this, or did they all legit think Box was alive? P.S. Hi Justin, I love you so much. So I'll ignore that last part. But for the rest, that's the question. Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is like in the coding. It's like it's both a thing where it's like deep down they're meant to accept Box as another character, but I also do think it's more of like a societal when in Rome type thing of like, well, I guess if everyone else is going along with this, then I am as well.
A little bit
It's
of
not,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as Box says like, oh, they're maliciously doing it as a bit. But I can see how Box arrived at that conclusion based on how
No,
TK
yeah.
described.
I was kind of if you want like the I always like having a technical sciencey explanation like in universe for these kinds of things, which kind of explains a lot of like season 2's existence of like, oh, that's season 1 thing. Well, Adam was built by God. It's like I remember that was a big conversation. What is Adam? What is toilet? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, we got
point being that in this case, what were we talking about?
Box.
Box.
Yeah.
In the case of Box, I like thinking about like the Me Life neural network because they were all in a sense tied together. So I feel like there's like this heightened level of empathy for Box, even though Box isn't actually in existence. There's so much stuff we wanted to do with the neural network that we just didn't have time to. I imagine we got to do our knife and taco body swap episode.
Oh my god!
Through the Me Life neural
really...
network, as opposed to the season 3 body swap episode, which didn't relate to the neural network. It was just how they were recovered. That was different, which also is really fun and cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite episodes exploring the way that different characters kind of project their own stories onto Box when Box was, I guess supposedly a corpse, was season 3, episode 5. Kind of the argument between Nickel and Tea Kettle and Balloon, and they were all like fighting over Box, and Box obviously there's the scene that has a very different connotation now, of Box rolling down the hill and falling into the, setting on fire, which is also ironic given the fire and water difference.
The drowning in the pool. Box, who taught you how to swim in Sin in Paradise? There are a lot of these little it's pretty messed up looking back. So it's fun to plant those seeds and watch them grow into horrifying.
Speaking
trees.
of planting the seeds, Brian, this question here.
I was gonna show
this one also mentions me, so
yeah.
Dang it. Just in case. Are you aware of the famous magic pickle that makes you mad and punch someone, Adam?
I was not. Well, I was gonna say I was not aware of it, but as the writer of the episode, you said you were not either, correct?
Well, this isn't a thing. This is someone came up with it. Unless I'm misunderstanding the meme. What?
No.
Oh wait.
No, it's just a funny little thing using like if you don't have the context for the episode, all you see that like little clip of knife punching me tag. It's like just you see a knife, picture a pickle in his head, get angry, go and then punch a guy in the face, and that's pretty messed up.
Right.
It's because of the magic pickle.
Right, it's not alluding to any previously existing thing, is what I'm saying. It's like people took that out of context clip. I remember I first was introduced to it in a stream with me and Jazzy. I think we both crack up over it because it's just the idea of thinking it through that lens instead of just that, knife is like reflecting on the trauma of the moment. Because for me, that's all about just the arc of Knife coming to terms with this whole thing of like, oh, well, when you die, you regenerate, so it doesn't really then matter. But over time we see that sort of breakdown, and I when that became a meme, I was like, oh god, we already have the thing in Act 3 where he's gonna think of the pickle again, so now they're gonna think, oh, they just doubled down, they wanted to reference the meme, but like, no, this is just part of the story. But I'm glad that everyone got to experience I think then it became the magic pickle that makes you process your grief or talk about your emotions or something. So
it's a very multi-layered meme now, and we're really happy to have contributed towards that. And speaking of multi-layered, we have another layer to the James saga here, but it's a good one. James says they're very happy for the gritty.
I'm good and insane. Thank you, Adam.
We're really making dreams come true here at AnimationEpic.
I like this one that asks for candle plush. Tori or someone on behalf of Tori comes to me whenever I stream or in person at the theatrical screening asking for candle plush. So, Adam, They're not gonna leave me alone until we make it.
All right.
So,
Well,
just like-
was gonna say, for anyone who has any opinions on who we make into a plush, we actually have a vote happening right now where you can actually decide or help us at least have information on who we should prioritize for a plush. So I believe it's inanimateinsanity.com/plush vote. So if you go to that URL, it's going to lead you to a vote. We have like fancy little icons for every character and everything. It's really, really fun. So I recommend it. We do have
nice
a
knowing
pretty
who
solid
is loved.
runaway winner of the poll. We do.
And loser.
and we'll leave. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We could reveal both if we want.
Who's the loser? I mean,
We could reveal the loser for sure.
Well, but then you're gonna drive up the votes of the loser because people are gonna
Let
be
them
like,
do
no.
it. Let them do
I was
it.
gonna say
Let
I don't
them
mind.
know how poorly they're performing. Like, why not?
Okay.
I mean,
Tell
I
'em.
mean, like,
Let me just look to make absolute sure it's correct.
just like everybody.
And
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll pull up a really unimportant question. Hey, this from Chrissy. You mentioned the show wasn't over yet. What do you all mean? I love this show, and thank you so much for inspiring my art. Happy 700K. I think what we can say here is that, you know, the movie was the finale of Inanimate Insanity 2, and it was the end of an era, and we really wanted to leave everything out on the field with this experience and make it so that, you know, you came away for it was so many years in the making that I feel like if we didn't put all of ourselves into it, we would have been selling you short. So we hope it was as complete of an experience as possible, but it's not the last time that you will see the characters. If anyone has any extra sauce they want to throw on that, by all means, go for it.
Oh, I like that. A little extra
Yeah.
sauce.
Any
One thing I
sauce?
want to talk about from a production standpoint is this is, at least with season 3, rolling into season 2, something that a lot of viewers don't know. After the viewer voting ended, which is around, do you all remember what episode in particular we stopped it at? Was it 15?
It was
season
it
3
that
where we
yeah,
stopped the viewer
because
vote?
Yinyang kept yeah, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yinyang.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
then
and I'll
it
get
was-
back to Yin Yang. But
Yeah.
after that episode, because the viewer vote creates a situation where you can't really confidently move on to the next episode until you have that voter information, right? Because if you write the next episode and then the voters save the character that was supposed to get eliminated, it always creates that doubt and it's hard to proceed concretely. But when that viewer voting was removed, and this is true for the rest of season 2 as well, we were able to create a production pipeline where once episode 15 was written, you know, that would proceed to going on to recording, and then episode 16 could be started writing right away. And so we had a stacked production schedule where different people at different steps could move forward on episodes. So we had multiple points where there were 3 episodes being worked on at one time. So that's why we were able to. A lot of people asked, how are you able to achieve all of this content in that amount of time? And that's the answer. It's actually how a lot of TV is produced as well, especially in animation. But, you know, all of that runtime is able to be produced because you're stacking it in that way.
It was home is where the heart is, actually, when we instituted that rule. I got my wires
It was
crossed.
12?
Yeah.
I thought it was a little earlier. Okay.
Yeah. Because
I used
that's
to
when it
vote on
happened.
those.
When Yin Yang. What's that?
I used to vote on those every
Oh,
time.
Good. Yeah, because we tried to do it. Yeah, and we did it through a gag as well of Yin Yang being like, oh, well, you know,
Yeah, it's
like
gonna be.
self-aware of it. But yeah, it added some
Well,
some
that
more
makes sense because then the episode after is Immunity Milk.
immunity milk, which was the consolation.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of voting, should we
got
just
the
get
plus
to
one?
it?
Do
The
it.
worst performing character. Let's all take a guess. Well, Justin and Brian, I think, know the answer. John, give
what
me your
are
guesses.
What from what character list do I have to like work on?
If
Is it
you
literally
go
any
to
character that just has-
inanimateinsanity.com/plush vote,
slash
you can see the
plush
whole list,
vote.
but it's essentially
Okay.
every contestant and every host, co-host.
Oh
that
my
we've
god!
had. There are a few additional characters too.
Yeah,
We
a
have
couple characters.
3GS.
And is the loser also a far away loser?
It's not far away, but they're the only person on the entire list to get less than 1% of the vote.
That's crazy. I'm gonna just I'll be called a hater for it, right? But I'll probably just go out of the way and say Doe.
No, actually. No,
That's a good
no,
guess.
I don't like not.
Is it season 2 or is it season 3?
Ghosts
or
are pretty
not?
cool. So
Is it season 3
They're
or
a
not?
season 1 contestant. I'll say
That's
that. So
hard
they've
to
been there
know.
since the very beginning, which is even worse. It literally
Yeah.
makes their case terrible.
That's actually so sad for them.
Wow.
Man. Okay. You got to tell me. I could guess half of it. Let's see it. Let's hear it.
All right, the answer is Salt.
Woo!
Salt
Salt
got
is Salt.
0.8% of the vote, which is the lowest of anyone. So we'll see if Salt's votes pick up after that answer has now been revealed.
Right now.
First, she finds out that she doesn't have
Yeah.
a boyfriend, and now this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Well, look, it was her ex, so you know.
No, was not.
Okay. Let's see.
Am I allowed to guess the winner, or should we not do that?
Oh, do you want
Ooh,
to say
should we do
that?
the winner? Maybe we wait a few more questions and then maybe we'll circle back around.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Absolutely.
let it be a surprise when
We
if
can
we
have
ever
them
do
guess in
something
the
like this.
in the chat before we reveal.
If you really want to, I like holding off on surprises, but that's a me thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, Maddox asked, have you guys really been, I like this choice word, conjugating the story since the beginning all the way to the end of I2? Or was it just something you made up halfway and everything was just convenient? LOL.
It depends.
You know, it depends on which thing. Because there are definitely aspects that were not planned from the beginning. Certain things like Suitcase and Knife being the central duo was like in the mind's eye, or like building up to a big large scale conflict of like all the characters having been created by Mephone. These are things that like get developed earlier on in the process, but there are also other things that we thought we were going to do, like a big confrontation between Mephone and Toilet that did not transpire. You know, like there are so many different things that change, and you have to be willing to grow with the story over time, kind of like what we were saying before. You have to have the plan, but also be willing to like let it spread its wings a little bit. So yeah, certainly not everything. I think Box is one of the biggest examples of that's something that just I know for years we talked about maybe doing that. But I think it was a thing we kind of had a handshake agreement on of like, we'll do it if it feels right, because we don't want to wreck the gag if it feels too much like a gimmick.
That's why the initial conceits of having Box in the finale was something like Box would be this presence within the void that like is all aware of it and would guide people, but in a way that's like played more for a laugh. And then by the end of the episode, would lose the red line game, and then we'd be back to Corpse Box.
Which would have been so
that retains the joke. But eventually, we were like, well,
like it's like a Wreck-It Ralph Penelope situation where like Box is trying to get out of the red line, but there's like a wall or something.
Yes.
Oh no. You know,
well, I don't think it was even that. I think it was like that they did some sort of heroic sacrifice thing, and it's almost played for dark comedy of like, oh well, in honor of Box's memory, we will carry on as if they made it out, and then just kind of a back to status quo thing of which is just so messed up. And we were like, we can't because. And I think part of this also was, back when Box was more of like kind of like played a little bit more for laughs, as Justin was saying, of like, oh, it's like this heroic, spiritual guide within the void, instead of just like a regular person who this bad thing happened to that you feel sympathetic for. So once that change happened, and once like I had like Asia in mind for it, I was like, no, this is like we want to see her get out of here. So
there's already so much tragedy in this finale. It's nice to have at least one character have a very solid win here. I
liked all the theories about Box before episode 18 came out that were like super tragic. And it's like, and Box was Mephone's first creation, and Cobs specifically killed her or something like that. And I saw quite a few like that, and I was like, this is really rad.
And it was like guessable, but there was the plausible deniability of like, oh, well, the deletion thing only started happening recently. So like maybe it
Yes.
doesn't make sense actually for Box to have gone this way. So like if there was enough there that people could kind of start like picking up on like, oh, maybe they will do this, but they're like, oh no, maybe that's too crazy. So it was in that great middle ground where like when it actually happened, it was affirming but not too predictable.
We knew that the big twist of Mephone made them all, that was like 2015-ish. So I mean, like in terms of episode count, like midway through, but like in terms of like years, it is very early on.
Yeah. This is a great question from Nick, actually getting into that. What scenes led to the reveal that Mephone created everything? Justin, I think this is interesting from your perspective, writing the season 3 finale, because this was a really big challenge that people, I think it was hard at the time. There were building blocks that needed to be set up for the eventual season 2 conclusion that you had to set up, but you could not reveal it. And it's a finale. So everyone in a finale expects that reveal. So how was balancing that for you when you were writing the episode?
Season 3 finale was wild because I knew that going into it, okay, I'm going to craft a finale here that in theory is going to be viewed by people who haven't seen the season 2 finale, but in the future, some people are going to watch in the order of season 2 first, then go back to season 3 and realize, oh, there's like this kind of side quest that happened as well. And I did want to craft it in a way that it did feel like you could enjoy the episode in this isolated state, but if you know the twist after seeing the season 2 finale, so pieces should make more sense. A lot of the ways that Walking Springy talk, characters having this engraved purpose within them, those two especially, but that's the entire Invitational group. They are all created by Mephone with this set purpose that either they're not able to achieve, or they've kind of outlived in a sense, or they exist to be a manifestation of a part of Mephone's guilt or something of the sort. It depends on the character. But being that they are all parts of Mephone that are from darker places in his mind, once they all join together, of course they're going to be formed against him. We also have Walkie Talkie having the realization of, we exist for Mephone's purpose. And like when you watch it the first time, if you don't see the season 2 finale first, you're not meant to exactly know really what that means, but it meant to make you at least be thinking a little bit on that subject. And then you have Springy, who's we talked about earlier, the concept of transcending beyond the purpose of Mephone. Springy is one of the first ones to kind of get that, like, hey, I'm here to help, and that doesn't necessarily mean in the way that I had this pre-programmed envisionment of, but it becomes a thing that Springy wants to do outside of the binds of kind of reworking and restructuring the game in the way that, because Springy came down in episode 14 to be like, hey, what if I made the game be exactly what you want, Mephone? And what Mephone wants is not what Mephone needs, as we know. And once Mephone kind of rejected this notion, what is Springy to exist for anymore? So obviously you're going to have that like kind of clashing of feelings there.
That's a great example, by the way, of a setup. Was going to mention the fact that everyone knows weirdly what Springtastic is and who Springy is, except for Bot, who clearly points out, like, how do you all know who this is?
My other favorite episode writing in terms of like setting up for like the season 2 finale stuff is that one, season 2 14, because yes, the moment that Springy came into existence was the moment that the memory of Springtastic was unleashed through the Mead Life neural network into the contestants that were connected, which, as you said, was everyone but Bot. That's a big deal. In that same episode, you have Cabby, who we had the scene about not remembering parents, which based off of Cabby's history, one might assume that it's because of memory issues that have been voiced in the past. Which are their own thing, but on top of that, there's this element of just making sure and on top of that, you have this element of making sure that you were sliding in, hey, there's something off here, but also like trying to like have like these subtle hints here about the fact that that none of them have parents, and the glitching is really important because you have Cabby illustrating, oh, it really hurts when I try to think about it. It's not just I can't remember. It hurts, and then to try to kind of visualize that in a sense. That's why we have this weird shot right after that, like the test tube bots kind of glitching out a little bit. I'm like, that is what happens when Cabby tries to think really, really deeply about her past before the show, a past that doesn't exist. You have this glitching out kind of thing that goes on there. I don't know if people have pointed that one out. I haven't seen that, but
well, I think a lot of people,
fun
when they were
process.
watching the episode, also attributed that to comments that Cabby had made in the past of like,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
I have trouble remembering things. When really that's something that a lot of the characters, if they were to really think hard about it, they would have a similar result, but they haven't tried to. They were literally designed not to. So when they're faced with that, what's interesting too is like they're all going to have different reactions to that information. And I think that's something really, really cool to explore. Is like when they're made aware of that reality, how do they take it? And everyone's going to take it differently.
One of my favorite things in retrospect to come through was then like the stuff with ballpoint pen, because like it's just played off as such a gag in the body swap episode of like, you think it's gonna be Steve Cobbs, the silhouette even looks like him, but actually it's not. And it was great to be able to lean into the cartoony nature of that, of like Nickel even being like, oh, I thought it'd be someone else, whatever. But it like to look back on it, it seems so obviously showing our hand of like, this was Mephone's projection in his mind of like an authority figure, Cobbs-esque, that he's trying to get the approval of, and that maybe even in this case he kind of begrudgingly does, and that what he hears from him is like sort of the truth that he doesn't want to admit to himself of like, you can't do this forever, right? So that was a whole thing where it was like, oh man, like that was what was so fun about being able to do the whole other season, to like just inject more foreshadowing in there, where it's like you could just take it on its own terms and look at it as its own like cartoony, fun, comedic thing. But looking back on it, it's just like foreshadowing DLC, you know? So it was
1000%. And speaking of foreshadowing, this is actually a fun one. In Out of Body Experience, when Test Tube pushed Bo/Bot out of the building's way, was that foreshadowing that they were made by Mephone, or did Test Tube know something? Burp. I like the burp ending. Thank you, Samuel. And that was before the hashtag reveal at the time. So I think really the narrative setup, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, as the writer of that episode, was essentially Bot was not created by Mephone. Obviously, Test Tube was aware that they may not have a recovery icon, so Bot could not die in that moment.
Yes, that is more about foreshadowing the fact that, and Bot talks about this later in the episode of like, oh, like you knew that I wouldn't be able to be recovered, and that like there's more than a backstory to them specifically, as opposed to a reveal about all of the characters. That being said, this whole meta thing of the fact that they all died in a comedic way in this episode was also meant to be a little bit of a prelude to when they die in a more dramatic way that we had already planned in season 2. So it also serves as a device to just remind people of the fact that like there can be like this die and recovery and regeneration back and forth, because it was also just something we hadn't been doing as much in the show. So I was like, okay, I want to be able to design an episode around where like this mechanic is really front and center, so that when we lean into it more and have these icons being removed, people are like, oh yes, no, this is a key aspect to the show. So everything's serving like 5 different purposes at once. But ideally, you're just watching it and having a good time. So, yeah.
Love it. Let me see here.
Let's speed
kind
run.
of a
Let's speed run.
Okay, we'll go
do a
quickly
bunch of
through. How many of the plushies will be made from the vote? Is it top 5, top 3? Also, hi, Adam. Hello, Flofer. Hello, thank you so much. I did want to acknowledge this because I don't want to say we're going to reveal every single result, but I will say we will absolutely reveal the ultimate winner of this poll. They will guaranteed be made into a plush. So if there is a runaway winner, we are not going to ignore it. We're clearly going to make it, and we're going to use the rest of the data to, again, very much influence who is created next. So that's all I'll say for now, but I really appreciate it.
Whoa, and maybe we'll hear that number one soon. Maybe. Whoa, keep listening.
I'm down, personally.
I'm down. Our friends at Inanimate Improv said, kaboom, from all of us here. We are so impressed with how far the show has come and how amazing all of you are at creating. You inspire us greatly, and we are so proud of you. From the improv team.
Yay! They're very talented.
And thank you all so
channel.
much.
Yay.
You know, shout out to Inanimate Improv. Their content is awesome. So if everyone's interested, definitely check them out. They're really awesome.
Pew, 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 pew,
Well, there's a
pew.
question for John. Where did you study? I love your work. There you go. Get into your background. Yeah.
First, I have to know: is my mic echoing still? I
You're
saw
good.
now.
Okay, I saw a couple of people in chat being like, "Why isn't he talking?" I was like, "Yo, I don't want to ruin the stream audio." Where did I study? I studied at University of Southern California, the Thornton School of Music, with another beautiful, wonderful member of this dais. Thank you, Adam. That's where we met. That's how this relationship started. And then I also saw a couple of people being like, "Who is John?" If you missed the first 15 minutes of Justin's introduction of me, I write
Wait,
the
John,
music.
John, you ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, make sure the mouth is moving. Here we go. Hello, my name is John Meadus. I am the composer of Inanimate Insanity, and I love Lori. Thank you so much for the support.
Perfect. So I studied at University of Southern California for my undergrad, and I studied at Rice University for my master's. Both in it's quite a pretentious degree name. It was a degree. It was a degree in classical double bass performance. So
Let's go.
Yeah,
Nice.
big, great. Can't recommend those schools enough.
You should see this. And John, I hope that you still continue to do this in your day-to-day life. I'm not sure, but you should have seen what John was able to do on his penny board and his bass, which is a huge instrument. He had a case where it had a little wheel on the bottom, if I'm getting it right. And he was on this small little skateboard, the smallest skateboard I've ever seen. And he was somehow able to completely like blaze through campus.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing.
So the USC campus was great because it was super flat and the concrete was really smooth. You know, outside of the some of the breaks. But yeah, pretty much like the bass had its own wheel that I could put in, and then I would scoot along behind it on the skateboard. I stopped doing it now, Adam. My
no.
But my favorite was on really windy days because the bass is like so big and so wide. And in fact, actually, you can see it here. Here's my bass in me. Hi. But on windy days, it was like the bass would act like a sail, and it would just like blow me along, and I wouldn't even have to like kick or anything. So those were fun times. But
just wildly impressive. Wildly so.
Thank you. Even once with our roommate's hoverboard. I don't want to say his name on the stream, but our violinist friend used his hoverboard quite a bit to
my goodness,
go around as well. Yeah.
So that's tough too with those curbs because those hoverboards are not forgiving. Like literally,
yeah, I did that once.
Any little lip, you will go flying. It's impossible.
Yeah, I did it once.
Literally, and I would know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I ate the pavement multiple times from trying to like ride that thing around campus. It was really hard. This is a really interesting question from Ash the Awkward Peep. Is there a reason as to why Springy was so much glitchier than the rest of the cast? Was it due to Mephone's mental health at the time also high? Justin, I'm not sure if you wanted to weigh in from episode 14's perspective, but obviously when we're talking foreshadowing in terms of them all being created, and there's this character who appears to be a childhood hero to Mephone. That was one of the major foreshadowing moments we had.
I was kind of pictured it in a way that the reason for Springy glitching is a little different, functions slightly different than the rest, but it is meant to be that foreshadowy element of like, how's this a thing that could happen to a character within the realm of the show? And harken back to season 214, Fan glitches out in the Shimmer ship, so it at least gets people's minds rolling in that sense.
Yeah. But I took it too is like it's this childhood character, right? That they're all thinking in terms of like, oh, I remember him from growing up, and that's kind of the reason for his existence. A lot of childhood memories, not always, but at least for me, I feel like they are a little bit more blurry. They don't connect as much in my mind as a memory you would have nowadays. So there's a little bit of that maybe.
I always picture that that it would relate to, yes, I mean, very similarly to what you said, to Mephone's specific memories of Springy, and if maybe there was any unhappy memory incidents that relate to watching those commercials growing up that might involve glitching in the actual reality of the memory, say watching on the TV staticky kind of thing. That might also relate back to Cobs. It'd be fun to kind of explore something like that at some point. But I love Springy. End of thoughts.
So good. This is one of the most important, speaking of the important answers, James is back at it again. And they're serious this time. They're threatening to sue.
Dear.
People are going to pay.
It's the what? It's the right?
It's like
yeah.
arms go back and forth.
Yeah. All right. We're legally protected now. Okay. Good. Tomb asked, I was wondering what would Mephone 3GS and Mephone 4 be doing now, and what is their duo dynamic? This is a really great question. I think something that was important coming to the end of the movie is that Mephone, not to say it's necessarily burned a lot of bridges, but everyone's obviously in a really weird place, after having learned the information. And it was something that I didn't want to have sanitized in the end of everyone just like, oh, well, all is forgiven. Let's have a hug. It's like, no, things do feel very weird, like power dynamic wise, like you all like made us for this very specific purpose. So like, maybe it's a good thing to like have there be space. But you want to be able to give Mephone like some sort of like bit of hope and like good future to then go on instead of just being like, I'm gonna like sort of like separate myself. So to me, the idea of 3GS and him coming together is sort of to suggest as well, because he's lost Mead as well, that 3GS, despite being the older figure technically, that Mephone 4 will be able to be kind of like the sort of older brother type mentor figure to 3GS in the same way that Mead was for him. So he's kind of taking up the mantle of that in honor of the memory of Mead, sort of, and that they can go off and have their own adventures, and Mephone can maybe be the more responsible and guiding one, so to speak. So that's kind of where I thought maybe things could go.
One of my favorite things about that dynamic too, and why that scene where they finally reunite at the end of episode 18, at least for me, is one of my favorite scenes. It's obviously very, heartfelt seeing them hug. But beyond that, the world that Mephone has created, everyone in the universe is obviously, portrayed to be created by him. And Mead is an interesting exception to that because he also came from Meeple and was created by Cobs. But as we saw in the opening theme to episode 18, which was made by the brilliant Anthony Koch. Shout out to Anthony. Beautiful song.
Amazing.
In that montage, we saw that Mead obviously woke up to Mephone in the cave. So it's not like Mead had any previous experience or memories before that moment. So in a sense, Mead was in the same boat as all of the contestants. He didn't have any of these memories or even really a connection to Cobs beyond just like where he had come from. 3GS is not that. 3GS has all those memories. We saw at the beginning of episode 16 that with stealing the egg, we don't have a lot of the in-between, but we have a lot of visual information to suggest he was thrown pretty hard in a closet. And so they have that shared bond that no one else has. So I think that's really important for Mephone to actually be able to have.
Yeah. By moving on, he's kind of opened himself up to that experience, which is, that shared trauma and being able to maybe unpack it together. For sure.
And speaking of Mephone, oh shoot, Brian,
it's all good. It's all good.
Here, Brian.
We'll
do this one first, and then we'll.
Great.
Okay. Great. Mephone had a question of his own. He wanted to know about all of the Canon ships, and they wanted to know right now.
Okay.
Here's my response to it. And again, I'm saying this as myself. I'm not going to give the whole, is it a yacht or sailboat answer here. What I thought was really awesome about seeing Paper and OJ on screen was that it was a moment that the viewers could actually watch unfold. And I feel like that's so different than hearing us on a live stream casually mention, oh, they're a thing or they're a thing. I feel like for me, if a character is going to have a romantic connection to another character, it's something I would want to see confirmed in the canon of the show, not necessarily on a live stream. But that is just my take on it. I don't know if anyone has anything different they want to say.
If we really, really want to make two characters fall in love, we'll bring back the show for that. As opposed to just saying something
reason.
like here. Like,
Inanimate Insanity Bachelorette edition. Like you just
Ooh, Bachelor of Paradise.
Can I just say the qualifications on when it becomes canon are so interesting to me because they could have such an important relationship to each other, but it's not until they blush in each other's presence that it means that then they're canon. They could raise a child together, so to speak. That apparently doesn't make you canon. But if you want canon, I don't know. But look, it's all good. I think there's clearly several moments in the finale where there are some important reunions that happen, and I think you can interpret them as you wish. But yeah, I mean, Paper and OJ very, very clearly canon, as everyone has prescribed.
Yeah, and I want to make it also super clear that when I'm saying that answer, I am not remotely suggesting that fans should not ship any of the characters together. We love it here on the team. Ship whoever you want. We 1,000% support it. If we're talking about the canon of the show, that would just be my answer. Is I don't want to confirm a canon ship on Twitter or on a live stream and not have it be in the show. To me, that seems like
this is a lame place to do it. So we'll figure that out. I do like love.
Oh, I like the lean when you said that too. It was so cool.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Good cinematography.
We just talk about romance. I'm like, wow, that's such a cool thing. Wow. Now that the characters are disconnected from Mephone, like, who knows? You know?
Possibilities are endless. Christine B said that her daughter Ashley, huge fan, yes, we remember, has been presenting the lore of I Season 2 to her 7th grade class using Google Slides. Everyone is loving it. I really want to see this presentation.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So badly.
That's incredible.
Drop the link. That's so fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that too.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Man.
We
have so many good questions. It's hard to choose. It genuinely is.
8th grade she'll do season 3. That's the next. So we gotta, by the time that the daughter gets to freshman year, we gotta get
the season 3 lore drop. So every year is a new season.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna say, I know we kind of got into this before. I do want to address it for any new viewers coming in here with upcoming stuff. We had mentioned earlier in the stream that this will not be the last you see of the characters, and when we have a specific announcement to make on anything coming up, then we will absolutely relay it. But yeah, just wanted to refresh that again for anyone who's coming in now.
I do really like these characters. I'd be very sad to lose them.
Yeah, especially when there's more story to tell. Let's see.
Ooh, this is a good one. Smecky wants to know, what is your best advice for starting an object show? Does anyone have anything in particular they wanted to get into?
Get a composer.
Ooh. Yeah. Wait, let's try again.
Get that bag, John. John was like, look, if they don't got a new announcement coming up, I gotta find
it. I'll take royalties.
I'll say I always relay a few things. No, Brian, you go.
I was going to say, you have to just start, and you have to be willing to fully embrace the idea that it is not going to be perfect from the get-go. So as long as you're willing to do that, because if you keep trying to make it into the best possible version of what it can be, you will never be done, and you will never put something out into the world. And what you can, the highest level of what you could create this year is not going to be at the level of what it'll be in a couple of years, but that's good and shows that you're growing as an artist. And also to that end, surrounding yourself with other people who can do the things that you're not necessarily as adept at. Like, by all means, learn the skills that you maybe don't know, but like there are certain things that like if someone else is really good at, like I'm not going to be animating, I'm not going to be doing the music. Like I know those things about myself. So build the team, build your network, find your friends to then come together, and you will you will create something together far greater than any of you could have done on your own.
What I always like to jump straight into is start so small, set yourself up for a project that you could make quickly and easily when you're first starting out, because you're going to get better and better by doing the full process over and over and over again, from the writing, recording, audio, animation, editing, etc. Go through that whole process over and over again. But in little small ways, because if you set yourself up to be making, both on an episode scale and a season scale, if that's your formats, right? Easy to make episodes, short season. Just that you don't have to, but that would be my recommendation for starting to improve as an artist. And you go through the whole process. You get to write 1,000 times. You get to animate 1,000 times. Go do everything so many times in these small bursts. And when you go through the process from A to Z over and over again, you will get better and better. And then get more and more ambitious with it. And obviously quality over quantity goes a long way. But I think when you're first starting out, do a whole bunch so many times and throw everything you love into it. Throw every single thing that makes you happy when you're watching or enjoying some sort of media. Get it in there somehow, whether it's characters that are reminiscent of ones that you love, or types of stories that are reminiscent of ones that you already love. Things that just really excite you in every single sense of the word, and have fun. Art is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look at episode 1. Right, of Inanimate Insanity. It's very different than episode 18 of season 2. And we've obviously gone in this live stream into like how we stack production and how we learned so many skills over time that allowed us to get to where we are now. But I say embrace the suck. I feel like in order to get to a point where you make anything good, you have to fail a lot. I always love the 10,000 hour rule is something people throw around all the time of like, it takes so many hours to get remotely even close to good at anything. That's just part of it. Obviously it's different when you're sharing it publicly. If you don't want to share it publicly, you also don't have to. You can create it because you want to have it for yourself. However you want to create that artwork for yourself. I love all of your advice. It's really good. Start small, I think is a great one. Collaborative, I think it's so fun that so many of the characters are voiced by friends and family. It's like another thing that keeps us connected together, especially when some of us don't live near each other. I mean, my dad is an example, the voice of Mephone for himself. We have a very close relationship, but it's just another thing another excuse that we have to jump on the phone, every however long, and do, which is great. So I say, if you can rope in people in your life, it's a fun thing to do.
Love that. This was a good question from Stupid Taco. Hi, I guess there's 2 questions here. What was the reason of Taco wanting to win so badly, and what was your favorite line in the movie? The movie was so amazing. First of all, thank you so much. Second of all, the Taco wanting to win so badly. I think this is something that we were very fortunate to have fallen into, which is that Taco in the season 1 finale, when everything is unraveling and she didn't get her way, she has this line, "I was built to win. My plan was perfect," which is so interesting looking back in light of the information that we now have. So is the implication now that perhaps Mephone had intended Taco as a winner at one point? It's clear that we put it in the text that Mephone was like, oh yeah, kind of thought Knife would be the one to win. Because that was another example of like, them transcending what Mephone had initially thought of them. So like maybe that was another case too, and maybe that's part of why Taco was so thrown for a loop there.
Whether or not that's the case, she definitely felt very sure of it.
Yes, she did. So it could have been her fate to have that happen, or not. It's I think that can be open to interpretation. Favorite line in the movie?
Favorite line's hard. There's a lot of good quotes in any all 3 acts. That doesn't narrow it down at all.
I think the one that jumps out at me at first, besides the Cobs monologue that we could go on forever about, Angela as Guava has this great line that completely cracked me up when we recorded, which is when they are about to do the song, and it's playing off of the earlier setup from Apple of how she really loves the animated movie dance party endings where they all celebrate after brutally killing the villain. And she comes out and goes, "So we heard you all just brutally killed the villain," and she did it in so many different ways, and each one of them was so funny. But when I heard that, I loved it. It was hilarious to me. So that just, I don't know. That has a special place in my heart personally. That was genius. The delivery.
That's a great one. I did want to weigh in on Taco and Meatpad's relationship a little bit really quick because we were talking about like I was built to win. I think what was so, I said before earlier in the stream that they were one of my favorite duos in the show. I think that's what's so impactful about their connection was Taco was theoretically built to deceive, built to be someone and reveal they are not that person. And I feel like what's so special about their connection to Meatpad is that they start off wanting to deceive, wanting to use Meatpad to get their way in another villainous scheme. But in opening up to Meatpad and not being deceitful and being honest and truthful, she builds a real, genuine connection with someone for maybe the first time in the entire show. And that connection allows her to rebuild other connections in the rest of the episode, which I thought was really, really cool. Favorite line?
Yeah.
I really loved, Justin, your delivery. This was more of a heartfelt one and less of a gag. But when Knife is talking to 4S and says, like, I always thought death was something you could come back from. I thought that delivery was so impactful. I love that scene in general. And
that poor guy's going
like,
through a lot.
It's brutal.
Oh,
it's
That's
brutal.
a good
It was a
one.
great line.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I want to go before Justin because mine's definitely not going to be emotional at all, and it would be anticlimactic if we ended on mine. I mentioned it to all of you before the stream started, but the Mephone for us when Knife just like tries to release punches, just don't do that again. Like
that was great too.
You needed something to cut through the tension in that moment because there's just so much of the speech, and it's like 4S like being the one to give a dramatic speech. Like it makes sense given the context of the situation, but like if you're talking about anger and using it at a certain point, you got to just actually throw a punch. But it's like no, don't do it on me. That's not what I wanted to learn here. Let's not forget.
There's just and I think I promise I won't make everything about music, but it really is the only because like when we talk about the writing, like Adam, like talking about the beautiful threads of how Taco starts to form and heal through genuine relationships. This is why I'm not writing. Like that's beautiful, man. But for instance, I think the lines that are always memorable to me are those moments where like it's instructed in my notes, like, oh, cut the music for these 2 seconds to let this line land or something. And so like again, like similarly to the monologue that's happening, I just we're putting up the music and knowing that that's about to happen. It's so much fun to try and ramp up the beauty of the music, similarly to like Knife right at the end to be like, wow, Balloon really can't rhyme, Like,
yeah, it's a great one.
I was gonna give a serious answer and a joke one, and that was my joke one. I love that line.
And so I guess for me, like the emotional lines matter. Let me be very clear. Like the death one, that's a bar. But I guess because my writing always ends up actually being related to the funny jokes more, because most often the serious ones happen during the music. Wait, season 2, episode 14, also my favorite line. When I argued, I think with Adam, when I like really wanted to cut the music.
Which part was it?
It was what It was what Mike said to Taco, and then like everything went like
name drop.
Oh, is that what you said to Pickle? Part.
Is that what,
yeah, the silent beat.
So I know that's not in the movie, but I guess for me the lines that will always stick out are the lines that don't have music, because they're just more impactful that way, funny or not. Okay, just
oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think, and this is a serious one. I think one of the new most iconic lines of the whole show, in my head at least, is, "So where's my money?"
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I love that line from Suitcase. And I feel like just just how straightforward it is, like, just says so much about how far she's come, but also getting the support she needs immediately after. Like she's awesome. Was the question the full finale just 18?
The movie,
the whole movie. Yeah.
Because if I'm going to throw in another playful one, and one that always gets me is and maybe it's because I got to play hand in writing this one, so I this is cheating a little bit. But towards the end of 16, I can't believe I'm just gonna was it?
Oh, yeah.
Barge my way in here, clock this guy in the face and win the million. That's crazy. Because I remember we were like, we need a beat before this. What was the beat before that in the initial script, Ryan?
I'm not
Before
even
we added,
sure
before we added that.
I don't know if there was.
Was there not a beat?
I think there was maybe some level of hesitance, but I don't know if there was like this moment of like kind of like cute like humor between the two of them, of banter. There maybe was a thing of like feels too easy, but like they'll go in. I'd have to jump back into the revision history, but we definitely didn't have that gag.
Right.
I think it was fun to strengthen their dynamic and just like play up like, oh, they're like in like good friendship, and like lean into the absurdity of it a little bit, and like this last little moment of brightness before we enter the dark world of Cobs. Yeah.
Oh,
I loved it too. By the way, having that little beat allows it to like reset the tension, so that like the physical action of busting the door open is accentuated by the humor as well. Because like if it's like like suspense, bam, doors open, like it's almost too much of a expected payoff. Yes. Where like the going from the beat to the slam of the door, again, just from like starting the music, it's so much easier to make the track happen and use the effects of like the door slam and the noise of that to immediately set a different mood. So I don't know what the original script went like, but I was actually really happy to see a joke there, even though I don't believe there was any music under it,
right?
Or at least like very low key,
right?
Because yeah, it just makes everything flow so much better.
Yeah, I love that moment too, because it really plays into the intrigue, Brian. I love that you included that beat, because like when they're running through Meeple throughout the song, there's like very few other people around. It seems like empty. Like, is it really going to be this easy? So I love that it was verbally acknowledged. And clearly when they kick the door open and you see all the screens, he's clearly tracking the whole thing one step ahead. It just really sets him up as a character. Like, it's the perfect way to reintroduce him after all this time.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I pulled up the old thing. I think we kind of just jumped right into it, and then Cobb said something like, "Oh, was wondering when you two would show up or whatever." And it's like, you can't, like, maybe you think that works on the page, but like when you put it into the, like, it would be like, whoa, we're suddenly in this scene. So I'm glad we changed that.
Samuel asks, animation related, what software do you use to like draw and animate? I'm totally not asking this because I'm making an object show. Samuel, you don't have to hide it. If you're making an object show, that's awesome.
I used to be embarrassed too. Kidding.
We use Adobe Animate to animate the show. And for storyboards, I know a lot of different artists on the team use different tools. Some people use Storyboard Pro. Some people literally draw it on pen with paper and scan it in. There's no right or wrong technology that you can use. All these things are tools to create whatever artwork you want to create. I always say too, with people who are asking about voice acting, they're asking like what microphone to buy or like what technology to use. The first episode of II, I personally used the microphone included with Rock Band for the Nintendo Wii from 2009. And I put a sock over it as a pop filter. I thought that would actually help the quality. And, millions of people have watched that video. So you don't need any specific technology.
I was gonna say,
you don't need a studio.
If not having certain equipment is holding you back from making the art, like forget all that. There's always something that you could use, and there's a lot of free stuff out there. Maybe we could find some resources on that to share. But part of just being able to make the art is being able to go through the process. Don't give yourself any reason to not start this second if you have an idea that you're excited by. And if you don't have an idea you're excited by, but you just want to make something, that works too.
And actually, I know it's about like animation stuff, which I am very much not qualified to speak about. And Adam, I love the lore. I would have guessed it was like a Yeti microphone or something. I love it being a Wii Rockman mic with a sock.
Rock on. Yeah.
But to Brian's super earlier point of like, oh, just make the art, just do it,
Oh, yeah.
and also Justin, the exact point of like, you will always find a reason not to. Just so you know, like again, not for animation, but for the music, right? Brian now knows I use Logic Pro X for.
Oh, right.
Can we tell? Are we telling that story?
No, that's for the lore masters.
Okay. I mean, it's available on social media, so yeah. Go
Yeah,
on.
sure.
yeah.
You can look for it.
Yeah. But so I use Logic Pro X, and you know, this is something that like I guess you could say producers or composers are usually very secretive about, but it's something I can easily be much more transparent with because like it's not my main gig. Like my main gig is being an orchestral musician, but like all the sounds that you hear in Inanimate Insanity are the unless I like get some specific free SFX or I like literally record some stuff myself, like in season 2, episode 14, like all the weird alien stuff. Like we talked about it in the composer interview, Adam. Like that's my ceiling fan being recorded from my phone mic or me messing around on an instrument. But
It's
for
incredible.
99.9% of the music, I am using the free plugins and software instruments provided by Logic. I have not paid at all, and like not a single cent for like extra what do you call it, like extra keyboard sounds or extra drum loops or stuff like that. I EQ, like I take a lot of care in going into the effects themselves to make things sound unique. Like my favorite is some really keen-eared people online when they like at me and they'll be like, "Oh, did you use this clavichord or did you use this thing?" And you know, and like for instance, like me and Bit Crusher are homies. You know, like
Yeah, Bit Crusher.
like the rough crunch Bit Crusher with like a little high pass EQ, or like for the Cobb villain stuff, I am automating. So the Cobb thing, it's like 5 tracks to start with and then 10 tracks like in the re-entrance of the music. um it's 5 tracks that are arpeggiated all in different motions with different rhythmic emphases, so you kind of can't focus on a single one, and then I'm just automating the EQ just going crazy the whole time. So it's like, and the 5 tracks, it's like, you know, Yamaha piano, which is my favorite, you know, like some distorted EDM bass and you know something like that. So like on the music side too, you really don't need much, and I don't even have a MIDI keyboard in New Zealand yet. I've just been using like my actual literally like Command K
That's
keyboard, so I
wild.
have access
That's
to like,
crazy.
yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that to you, Adam, but
I don't think I knew that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy.
Fun fact: season 2, episode 14, and season 3, maybe episode 1 and 2, but maybe just episode 1. Those are the only 2 that I've actually ever used a MIDI keyboard on. The rest
Wow.
have legit just been on my laptop keyboard.
That's
So,
wild.
yeah.
I think the through line with everything that everyone's saying here is that like there is no formula, and there's always use what you have around you. I feel like that's ultimately what creativity is. You can use your resources. You don't need, you know, a big fancy studio environment or high quality technology to make something really cool. So if you have an idea, just get going. Like, don't stop yourself.
Great. No, great answers. It's a super specific deep cut here that I liked from the professional watcher of YouTube. What happened to the prisoners and everything's AOJ? Yes, that is the episode when Mephone is sued. I think this is something, and we can speak a little bit to this, that what I thought was interesting is that I think at this point in time, we knew for a fact that Mephone had this generative ability that was sort of growing over time and was more than it appeared. And that's why there's a specific, very specific line I remember putting into that episode where Judge Gavel mentions about like, oh, there's this freaky portal the defense claims just randomly opened one day, and Mephone just kind of shrugs. This is the first sort of implication that Mephone subconsciously generates things in my mind of like this, and ultimately leading to this reveal of the generating of everyone. So by that same token, yes, like the characters that we see, whether it be Gavel or the prisoners in that episode, are Mephone projections, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we see them in the background of void scenes, as well as like we set up kind of the thing of like, oh hey, they has to go to jail, but just for a day. Oh, imagine that. So it's all like in this funny childlike imagination type thing. So like for the real lore masters, as John said, like yourself, you can really delve into that and be like, oh yeah, that's something that then you could see more of. But like we try to like not spend too much time explaining it in the movie, and more just like we'll have like a little detail and some background stuff you could catch. Yeah,
that was great. I was gonna say Roman wanted to weigh in here with they're the taco cosplayer from Seattle, which amazing cosplay. Like it was so cool. And they wanted to just say that we did a beautiful job and thanks for making it amazing. Which thank you so much for saying that.
Oh my gosh, yay!
And then we've got XX Bunny Kit XX who just says, Justin, be careful. Fanny is behind you.
Whoa.
Got
Gotcha. My gosh.
Oh,
well, yeah.
This is a really good question that I just found. Just a simple question about Inanimate Insanity Invitational. John, I can't keep reading the question. You have to like, yeah. There we go. Make sure that the chump of all time doesn't block your face. Looking back at how the season went, would you have done the viewer voting any different way with experience on how it went? So I guess they're talking about like voting for one character to be immune and having the same result. I feel like what's interesting too, we see with other shows like Battle for Dream Island, for example, they still have viewer voting, which dictates who gets eliminated or is saved. And you don't see that happen all the time, where one character is constantly immune and the result is the same. I feel like oftentimes, even with like BFDIA, a character will go from being beloved and getting the most votes to get a prize, and they'll get voted out, like however many episodes later. So I still think the way the characters are written determines the outcome. So I found it really interesting. Yinyang as a character was really interesting because even though they were acting, he almost got a free pass in terms of being villainous. Because when Yinyang is villainous, it's hilarious and great content, and viewers don't get offended by it, which I understand. But it kind of gave him immunity from not getting immunity, if that makes sense.
Right. So then it removes the surprise from it, which I think we were very overt in when Mephone talked about it, in terms of saying why we were deviating away. So yeah, like there's a world in which I guess we don't do any of it, and then things could have then gone differently. But I don't know. I think we live very much by a no regrets philosophy, so to speak. I mean, we have some, but and I think in the grand scheme of things, it's just sort of like if that's the way it happened, then that's the way it is, and you kind of have to wear the what was it you said, Adam, about embracing the
suck.
Embrace the suck.
For sure.
Not like it sucks. It never would suck. But yeah.
No, for sure. And Yinyang too. I mean, yeah, it's so interesting too because in season 2 he was voted out pretty early for that exact reason of like, oh, he's so villainous and annoying and he's always fighting with himself. Like, get him off my screen. But it became so endearing in season 3. He was one of my favorite characters to write in the show, like for sure.
For sure.
And if he didn't, like Yinyang obviously does not go on to win the season, but even if he did, I think we would have removed that aspect of the voting, because if he were to be the ultimate winner, I think it would kind of remove the validity of the win that he just skirted to the end with no threat. So it wasn't because we wanted to get rid of Yinyang. It was because of the threat that the voting imposed on having an exciting finish. Really.
But that said, I mean, Yinyang was like easily one of the most exciting characters to write for. Just a delight at every turn. And even when, that's why you kind of said when we got rid of the viewer vote, we were like, well, let's still keep it around a little longer.
This comes from Ace Drawings. If it wasn't for the immunity vote, would Yinyang have lasted as long as they did?
I think we kept Yinyang like an extra episode or two, right?
We did.
Still past the point of there being a viewer vote, but we're like, The viewers earned it. They get a little more yin yang. That's their reward, you know. Even if we're not like outright saying it.
I also remember when we would write scripts, I feel like we would maybe go into it being like, okay, we'll go a little yin yang light on this one, but without fail, we would always have some fun yin yang runner that we put into it. Like I remember when you did Riggedy Rex, Adam. I think. That was like, I think there wasn't supposed to be a ton of yin yang in that one, and it's just sort of, it's like I don't know what happened. It's just so fun to write yin yang.
Yeah.
You know?
He definitely had a bigger role than he was intended to, but like that moment was so funny. And then I just love how Riggedy Rex basically never shows up again. Like it was so integral to them, like mending fences and kind of like getting on the same page. And then like it's never seen. It was a cute moment though.
Those are character voices you can hear so clearly in your head.
By a little pets.
Yeah.
And speaking of duos, I mean, the Yin Yang Candle duo was just so much fun to see on screen too. Like, you know, the complete polar opposites and how Yinyang learns to appreciate like the advice and the serenity and the calmness that the candle is offering. I found it was one of those things where like it was also just as fun to write the music for Yinyang, I guess, as it was for y'all to write, literally like write for Yinyang, because one, I don't know what's about to happen. And again, favorite quotes wise, what's the one at the table? The
anti-girl club.
Oh,
anti-girls club. Again, you know, like stuff like that. It's beautiful. It's great writing. Thank you,
little
guys.
But yeah, to the non-binary scene of
yeah, with the paintbrush. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the paintbrush. Yes.
Yeah.
Paintbrush.
Man, I'm looking through. There's so many good questions. I want to also thank the community again. This is amazing.
This is about the creative decision.
Why do you murder Mead? Why? Why do that? Why punch Mead in the face and stab and burn? And why would you do that, Brian?
I think you're paraphrasing that a little bit.
Why aren't they asking
and what happens to people
why
first?
we sent Box down a hill and catch on fire? Wow.
Yeah, where was everyone upset about that?
True. Yeah. Well, I think with me, it was definitely not a decision that was made lightly because we love all of the characters very, very, very much. It kind of came down to this idea, for me at least. Mead has this arc that we've traced over the course of the season where he was Mephone's dutiful assistant and co-host and kind of wasn't seeing the forest through the trees, was seeing things through a more rational, just logical perspective at first. And then over time, you slowly peel back the layers and you start to see this in Kick the Bucket. When at first it's like, oh, there are parameters for the show and you must stay within them and blah, 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 whatever. But then finally, once he starts to see kind of the pain that the characters are going through, that it really broadens his perspective and makes him think, maybe Mephone, the way he's constructing everything isn't like entirely the way things are supposed to be. And that's where you first see this rift being formed. And to really trace that through from him starting to like give up a little bit of like, okay, I'm going to give up a little bit of this assistant role by stepping back and letting Marshmallow pass and go to the mansion, to the ultimate sacrifice of I'm going to lay my life down on the line in order to save not Mephone, but to save all of the contestants who would not have been able to come back with that sacrifice. To me, it's just the ultimate testament of how much that he had grown. And I think the added dramatic irony to it as well is that Mephone, he specifically asked for like, hey, like I don't want anyone else to die for me. And that also, to me, I think I was trying to do that as a tip of the hat to what you have in the season 3 finale, Justin, where Mephone really kind of he specifically doesn't want that to happen anymore. And for Mead to specifically say, I didn't, it is in a way still doing it for Mephone, because it is still this thing of like, hey, I, want to remove you of that sense of guilt and responsibility of that. This is then all on your shoulders. So Mead ultimately did something very, very noble. And I think all the characters will forever remember and honor that.
Recording that line, Mead's last line was so hard. I was like, because I was also like, this is probably the last time doing the voice for the show. Like that was it. And then I realized after that point that I actually missed a page. It was like the first time in years that I did that.
Really?
Yeah, just like stuff in the middle of the fight. I guess the around the point where
that's nuts.
Like I don't want anyone to die for me, and Mead saying you can't control that. What's the line again? That's the
that is not up to you.
That's not up to you. Point being that I did record I did that whole voice session, all the characters in that episode video record. So maybe I could throw that up at some point. But
So
that
that
wasn't
was
a
the
very
last
happy,
line?
joyous session, huh?
So that was
Wow.
the last line. That is not up to you?
Yeah, but that one wasn't on the video recording, so we could just forget that happened.
The
We could
irony
forget
of
I
that,
made
though.
mistake. Actually, I printed because it was a video recording, right? I printed out every single line. Well, the entire script, I had it on paper, and I like highlighted all my lines and went through it like that. I just missed a full like on paper page of the script. I'm like, dang it.
It
Such
happens.
is the pain of being a little voice actor on a little show online, a little
Big
indie
movie.
show that no one's heard of.
Yeah. Oh, and to answer the other part of it real quick, Mephone
For
Forest
us,
in the
yeah.
void. Yeah. Still like is like not like in sort of that space ever since having sacrificed himself. So that's where they are. That's where they will continue to be, so to speak. Yeah. Hopefully that's a worthy answer to your question. Thank you, Lightbulb Lover. Thank you.
Awesome. And Lilac wanted to ask, hi, John. They also apologize for blocking your face, but don't worry, they'll move out of the way in a minute. Just wanted to say that I'm a huge fan of II soundtrack and that you're an incredible composer. My personal fave is the Bright Lights song. What software do you use to make music?
Also, hi, Lilac. Actually, it's really funny that you bring this up. I was just going to check Twitter because they also put another super chat thanking me for saying that their like drawing was the funniest piece of OSC content I've ever consumed, and that is correct. The drawing of Adam, Brian, Justin, Toilet, and the Refund X, and okay, Toilet now hit the second tower. That was one of the funniest things. I really just went back to that every day and just laughed. So that was awesome. To answer the question, I already mentioned Logic Pro X. I've used it since I started, seriously composing in sophomore year of university. And obviously got better and better with it over time. And then before that, but like for my classical music or for my, like for instance, for Test Tube Tango, I use Sibelius because that's a more traditional piece of music. So it needed a more traditional thing. Bright Lights, can I tell y'all some super secret lore about Bright Lights that like none of you know?
Let's do
So
it.
Bright Lights, just to make sure, of course, is the it's that one, right? Like the one with the marimba and cute little strings beforehand.
Dun. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that was a unreleased piece of music that I wrote, not for the show. That was for, and I think I mentioned this, not this, but I mentioned similarly with, because season 2, episode 14 was in the middle of COVID. I was working at Walmart and it was like 30 minutes of music, and well, we had like 3 or 4 weeks to put it down, and I hadn't done that stuff. And so the two big things that I didn't make for the show, but now ironically became staples of the show, is Microphone's theme was unreleased music for a video game.
Wow.
The video game is actually out. It's called Catastrophes. It's on Steam. But the level, they scrapped the level that I wrote that music for, and I was like,
wow.
nah, it's way. Actually, I won't say their names out loud, but you definitely know the people who made the game, Adam, too.
I do.
Yeah, I think I really.
We'll talk offline. I'm curious.
Yeah. So the level was scrapped, and I just loved that theme so much for Microphone that when I listened through the episode the first time and watched the rest of the season to get the context, I was like, oh, this fits. And then for Bright Lights, this one's actually pretty funny. I was commissioned by a church to write, I think, 5 to 10 hymns for their organ player for different parts of the per session, like the different parts of the service. And they were basically like, we're gonna pay you for 10, but we're only gonna use 5. And they had like specific time requirements. Like, oh, this one needs to be a minute and a half, this one needs to be 2 minutes, etc., etc. And the bright lights theme was way too short. And they were like, we like it, but we want it to be longer. And I was like, oh, choose another one then, because I just thought the bright lights one was just like, again, like it's really, I didn't want to change what it was. And the point of that one, it was supposed to end the service. They had fancy words for it. So again,
Wow.
for any Catholic or Masonic people, I don't know, you know, but it was supposed to be one of the things where they end or someone stands up to leave or something. And so I didn't expect to use it for the thing, but in episode 14, when they're all saying goodbye,
It's a
I was
living.
just like, I
Ah.
got it. So there's some
So
super
cool.
lore for bright lights. So yeah,
It's so in the spirit of the show. It's like, you know, they were maybe designed to be used for one purpose, and they can transcend that and become something new.
Oh, I like that.
which is
See?
why for till the end of my days, I'm never going to be prouder than of anything in this show than the reusing of that season 2 episode 14 outro.
It's also just one of the best songs.
fantastic.
Oh my god, so oh, don't leave me until I find my way back to you. What a
That's
banger!
my fave.
Like,
Speaking
yeah.
of which,
oh my god,
You're
That's
not
just
writes
fast.
Test Tube Tango mentioned Let's Go. It's my fave song from the show. I've been learning the violin part, and it's a fun challenge. Thank you, John Meadis, for actually getting me to practice my violin. LMAO.
There you
Thank
go.
you. I genuinely did not expect pretty much any super chats, so I'm deeply appreciative. I thank you for both your money, your chats, and your supers. But Test Tube Tango, yeah. For making you practice your violin, I'm very happy. It's not an easy for you three, by the way. It's a very easy piano part because if you see on the video, I'm playing the piano, not the bass, even though bass is my primary instrument. And I have my two wonderful friends on bass and violin. It's actually an extremely hard violin and bass parts because both of them were doing their masters with me down at Rice, and so like I knew I could write something particularly like virtuosic and difficult because I had my homies that were going to play it, and so for anyone practicing or anyone that wants to play it, the sheet music's on my YouTube page where the OG video is. In the description, there's just a PDF download link for the music. So go crazy, make your own version. There's like a 16 polytonal microtonal version of it on YouTube that I just stumbled across like 2 days ago, where someone's like doing their rendition of it and they have a ripping solo in the middle, like stuff like that. Like, you know, I look for it online, and it really means a lot to see people creating or being inspired by the music as well. So I don't know, just gushing, similar to Justin. Just love the music, love the art, love the community. You know, it's big fan.
Unlike these two, who don't
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like the community. Ugh, terrible.
Let's say.
You
We're
guys
all,
don't like the
we're all
NBC
gushers
show?
here, okay?
Yeah.
Some are just more gushy than others. What can I say? I feel
some,
like
some
we
have
can all get
access
in touch
to
with our emotions.
yeah. Some have access to pinning super chats, Justin, and some don't.
True.
Yeah, you guys have the freedom to
Yeah.
gush.
Yeah.
Brian and I have
We're
to live
chained.
with the horrible shame of having
Give
to
me the
pick-
responsibility. I'd be clicking on them like wildfire.
All right, here's one
don't
in
think
my
that's the right way.
continuing duty that I'm bound to.
Grow
the
up.
Super chats. This I want to hear Adam's perspective on this. After the comment about contestants projecting onto Box, how would Box feel or react about Nickel and his one-sided friendship with her? Because I'm seeing a lot of people talk about this too and speculate.
I think this is going to be something that goes beyond Nickel. I think this is going to be I mean, I would imagine that's something that Box is probably going to struggle with, is this idea that there are so many memories that all of the characters perceive that they were involved in that clearly they weren't, and that's really weird. And I think Nickel is an obvious first person you think of in that whole storyline because his connection to Box in season 3 was so obvious. But even with Apple, of like, how's it going? Like, we don't know each other, but okay.
That's one of my
kind
other
of the
favorite
through line.
lines. You killed the delivery on that, dude.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that one, and it was a great line.
Yeah.
But it kind of represents that whole idea. I think that would be the obvious, interesting thing to explore with Box as a character. I mean, so much more too.
Nickel was using Box to project a whole bunch, and that was a lot of fun to play with. Kaboom! We love our Nickel.
That's what was so great about, I mean, characters like Bo and Box, who were both voted into season 3. And it's like, oh, how do we make this work? I feel like I'm really proud of us as a team that we were able to creatively put their characters into the show in a way that both worked with the lore of what we had set up and also was just, I thought, very entertaining. Where Bo was an obvious one of like, Bo is dead. How are you going to make this work? And thus Bot was born into the show. And that was such an awesome, one of my favorite parts of the whole season. So, yeah, I think it's cool. You're given a prompt and you can get creative with it. I was going to make a ChatGPT reference there, but I don't want to go down that
No.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
We're on the sidebar today.
It's all about the prompt. It's all about how you use the prompt.
Well, we have so many prompts from the audience.
We do.
Yep.
What prompts would we like to see from?
Who hung up the phone during the Mephone and Cobs conversation? On both sides, it seems like the other person hung up. And wondering about this for ages. You fell for him. You fell for his deceit. You see, when Cobs goes, he hung up on you. He's a little liar. He's a little conniving man.
What the heck? Why?
I know. He is. Yeah, he just wants to. He's all the stuff we said before about like we're with the contestants in that Act 1 cliffhanger of like, oh, can they trust Mephone anymore? Cobbs is feeding into that, knowing like, oh, Mephone looks really bad right now. I have a little extra artful thing to make him look worse. It's the same reason why he picks up the call from Mephone at the exact time he does. He's like, I'm gonna wait for the best point in my dramatic monologue to pick this up. Like I'm just gonna wait. So that was another very fun thing about writing that scene and like adding, because it's like you got to break up the monologuing like to a certain degree. I think that was a fun narrative device to inject as well, of like, we know Mephone is calling, and we had seen that scene of, oh my god, he's doing finally Mephone's doing the very active action of trying to call Cobs, but no, then it keeps being denied, and it's just this tension of the scene of like, oh, well, what is he gonna pick up? What's gonna happen? So yeah, you were tricked. You were tricked by
Cobs is just so theatrical. I feel like his life would have went a lot better if instead of going into tech, he went into like theater or something.
You could have had such a different road. I was gonna say Joshua Waters again, an incredible delivery of the line, and like one of I could listen to Joshua speak for an hour straight and not get bored. I would not click 100%. Off. Like
those recording sessions were so much fun because he is the nicest guy, and it would be so crazy going through. Like he would say the most twisted, like horrible stuff. Then he'd be like, "All right, how was that? Is that good?" I'd be like,
so funny,
dude. I had chills hearing it. And I'm like, I know this is just a character. These are just words, and it was extra funny when we did the stream in character as the bots with him, because he was actually saying our names and being like, "No, don't do that again, Adam." And you're like, "Oh,
I'm gonna press the button. I'm gonna press the button."
Yeah. And like, for me, I was like, I'm getting a little scared actually. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
it's a peek behind the curtain too, because I really wish that I could have attended even more of those recording sessions, and I commend Brian too for all the directing work. I think that's what's so nice about having multiple directors on the project, is that we're able to focus on different pieces of the show, and if we all had to be involved in every aspect of it, I think it just wouldn't happen at this scale. It's too big at this point. I mean, it would not come out as long or as often.
As a claim,
so, I think that's one of the strengths of, and it kind of goes back to Justin's earlier point of like, when you're starting to start small, is it gives you that opportunity to set the foundation and be involved in every pot, because when it grows, it is harder to do that. And it's good to have other people on board who can focus on different pieces. But
very good.
Such as the piece of choosing the next Super Tracks.
Whoa!
Zelbonic says, "Hey, I'm popping in to say I'm the one who made the Crusade characters for the Key 3 at the LA screening. I has inspired me so greatly in such a short time. I just want to say thank you. Hooray! That was so awesome. It's
love
quite
them.
something to get physical items of you that represent you directly.
Little Cooper.
Quite
It was
the honor.
amazing, very talented.
Thank you.
And thank you for your generosity with that. It was awesome. I'm always amazed by just the passion that this community has for creating art. It's really astounding. There are so many people in this community who can draw infinitely better than I ever could. And I continue to be blown away by that. Just very impressive.
I like this from Star, claiming to be Toilet's #1 fan. There are a lot of people vying for that title, so just know it's competitive. I was wondering if you can like say some more about his ending or more to his character that you couldn't also kind of get a high star. High star. Yeah, I think this was something that you kind of have to make the executive decision on of like when Toilet has this great moment at the end of Act 2, which was something I knew I had wanted to do something for years of like just paying off the wire thing and it really like actually mattering and that being like some sort of like I think I just had written down in a note for years of like, oh, like something with the like Toilet, like by unplugging the wire, it, like that's like the key to everything. So for me, that's very much the climax of the character's presence in the film. But there still is important things to explore after with, like there's still a little bit of resolution of the fact that Mephone needs to come to terms with the fact that like, yeah, like I didn't deserve you as an assistant and I'm sorry. And also you need to get a little bit of the grieving that Toilet has for Meepad. And those were important beats. They could be things that were definitely lingered on longer and maybe, who's to say what the future could hold. But I think for me, it was just important that we don't get too much into like, the sadness of that, because like after everything Toilet had been through, especially in the whole like being taken away by Mephone X and like everything that they've been, I thought it was good to largely leave them on a triumphant note. That was just my thought, but yeah, curious if anyone has any
1,000% fair.
Yeah,
that's super good, and I think it was good too. Obviously, episode 13's ending sets up a lot of conflict between Mephone and Toilet. That they don't ever have that huge hashing out moment. But I feel like ultimately that wasn't the focus, and it's not what you really. Well, I don't know. I can just speak for myself because maybe there are other people who would want to see that hashed out. But I feel like so much of the conflict, the main conflict, is centered around Mephone and Cobs. At that point, that Mephone it's kind of the collective that is upset with him for all of his
it got
dishonesty.
Yeah,
it was kind of that starting domino, if anything. That led to the larger wave of stuff. So it felt like it would be a little bit repetitive.
Yeah.
If we focused on it too long. This is a good question. Could someone do me a favor and ask this question? Funny. All right. Well, the second one. How will any of the people still in Me Life get out when the egg is removed from Mephone 4? This is something I've seen a lot pop up.
No, it is a good question. And I think to me, the logic on it very much is that as fan speculates, the egg is basically what gives the energy and the power for Mephone to revive and also to regenerate when things die or disappear. So to me, the cutting off point is just, okay, if anything were to disappear or if anyone were to die from this point onward, they would be gone. The connection is severed. However, everyone and everything that already is in Me Afterlife, as Box refers to it as, is still there. Perhaps it's a little bit more glitchy than it was before and a bit more of an unstable place, perhaps. But I think characters like Springy or like anyone who then still is in there has a chance of escaping. I think as we saw, what it really comes down to is if they can embrace the togetherness element of it all and not be lost in the projections that they have to confront as they go down the race. So if they can link up together, there is a chance of escape. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
They're the code, so to speak, in their form is already existent in a sense. Mephone can't create anything new anymore, but what has been made is existent. And once severed, cannot be recovered, which is kind of a huge deal in this world of those who are used to not having to worry about that at all.
It makes Meadpad's sacrifice even more of one, because it's not just even the characters that we realize. There could be even more characters that he eventually saves, because this is confirmed, but if Cobs were to have theoretically killed Mephone, that ability to come back would be gone. So
Yeah.
there would be anyone to hit the button.
Yeah. God. Every little insect you created.
Oh, so good.
I'm starting to think he's not a very nice guy. Why do we do a whole live stream about him? That was messed up.
It wasn't. Gosh. I'm thinking back to the editing brain rot that we had the night we were doing edits, when we kept laughing at the "this is rich" line.
Yes, it's so good. Oh, that delivery too is just phenomenal.
If anyone knows anyone named Rich, be sure to play that when they walk in the room.
Right.
This is rich.
God, just every line was so good.
I wish people could know too. I mean, even from a production standpoint, typically what we do, we create. I'm gonna get a little nerdy with like the process for a second. We create what we call I know, I roll.
No, I'm excited. You
let's go.
Let's go.
We create a V1 of the episode where it's essentially, all the animation. We put it into one cut. John's amazing, beautiful music is in there. Essentially all the pieces are in the cut, and then we watch it and tear it apart. We create a whole document. We list every little problem we have with it. It's never really the music. The music is always phenomenal.
Oh my God. Stop.
First of all, everything is phenomenal. It's really more we're viewing it. Now we see it all in context. And the way you view it is just going to be different at that. So even if, with the animation's a good example, it looks beautiful and all of our animators do a fantastic job, but maybe it's like, oh, maybe we should change this facial expression because of what it's setting up in the future episode or even later in that same episode. One that I immediately think of is in episode 15, when Knife says, you are bringing her back, right, Mephone?
Right.
That was a little change that we made because I know, Brian, that you had flagged. Clearly, this is part of Knife's larger story of accepting death as something you may not be able to come back from, which is a huge part of the ending of the show. And giving him maybe a little bit more of a concerned facial expression. There's a lot of little things like that, and there's so many of them, hundreds, thousands of them, that it'd be cool one day to maybe share something of the sort of a sheet. Maybe people can see all these little changes. I don't know how that would be, but it's just fun. But it's a lot of work.
There's a great quote. I forget who originally said it. Is that movies aren't ever finished; they're just released.
Yes.
So because
I put that one a lot.
Even when we we screened the dang thing in theaters, and we knew when we did that we still had things that we tweet for the YouTube version. So there was still, and so I think people have picked up on some of those things. So yeah, we're always tinkering and we're always trying to, exactly as you said, once you see the totality of the thing, some things may jump out at you that never would have been the case when you're just viewing each scene as standalone. So I think being open to that and being able to, again, change the plan a little bit and have that flexibility is going to let you make better art in the end.
1000%.
Even like before I send it back to y'all, like after mixing, after dealing with all the sound cues, there's at least one more time where I put my headphones on. I usually don't look at the screen actually, and I usually just close my eyes on my bed, listen through, and I'm like, is there any moment during this episode where the music is either distracting or destructive to what's going on? And it happened more so at the beginning of season 3. I remember episode 2 or 3. I remember having to do this more often than in the movie. But there are some times where it's like, oh, this cue, no matter how soft I make it, or no matter what I try to do, this cue doesn't work for me. And then that's your final chance to just wrestle with that. I do want to ask y'all, when you say you post my music and y'all looking at everything, what do you think is one of the, can you remember the biggest change that you made between that moment and release? This includes the movie or season 3.
Just from the V1 of the music you submit versus the final product, or is it
Yeah,
not about the
from,
music?
not about the music. Yeah, actually,
Oh, just
explicitly
any
not about the music.
change in any
'Cause
episode. That was the biggest.
Yeah, because I think the biggest musical change would have been actually probably like the Candle of Elimination, like a complete overhaul of the elimination
Sure,
music. I
sure.
think that's probably the biggest musical change. So yeah, non-musical, like whether it's an animation thing or an added or deleted line that you're like, actually, wait, this isn't it, or this really, I need this, you know?
Well, I know there definitely were some music. Like I think in Truth or Flare, like we sort of we had you revamp the taco challenge kind of approach to a certain degree. So that was
Oh
one.
yeah.
That was definitely a lot that we
I
asked you
copy
about.
pasted that so much. Was that okay?
Yeah.
Now, Adam, actually, I think all of you know, but this year or this past year in particular has been so crazy. I think that no, I don't think that's the one I had COVID. I think that's the one where I got into the surfing accident.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that was it. Because I was like, uh,
Forget the
like
penny board. Here comes the surfboard. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
So like
yikes.
that's where this and this came from. But long story short, I hit the rocks, right? And you know, luckily no
Insane.
concussion. Sprained tendons in my right arm.
Oh,
That's
wow.
we finally got the news for that. But long story short, I was in bed, still going to work, but I was like, yeah, definitely a lot of copying pasting. But that taco song was just so good. I just couldn't.
It was so good. And look, you are our strongest soldier for sure. It's always. And I think it was a thing too, and it was a thing we had said like, oh, let's use the leitmotif, like let's like like the melody or whatever of the song. So like you know, it's all stuff that like you know like we try, and then we I think we also chant like a little bit the ending of the movie too, like to have it like have like a little bit more of like a bolder note for like the very last part, the like most of the knife suitcase
Yeah,
scene
absolutely. Yeah.
is like sort of lower, but then like it rises up. But like, I mean, in terms of biggest shit, like, I mean, like, guys, I think it has to be like, well, no, wait, because we did have the scene. There's the scene with the shimmers that wasn't in the theatrical cut, but it was in the John cut. So I guess that's technically not a change. Yeah, what would have been the biggest change on our part? Do you know? Do you have one, Adam? I can think.
Between a V1 and a final, that's tough because at that point we've animated, and obviously, as you know, when you're creating an animated product, it is very challenging to create new material. Like if you're creating a live action video, you just film it really quick and slot it in. But with animation, there's so many pieces that need to get you there, from voice acting, designing, animating, that it is really hard to include new material. And you don't want to cut it if you've already put all of that effort into it. So there aren't like great examples of like pieces that are added or removed, except for the shimmer one's a recent one that's a good one.
I do have one technically, which is we had the scene where it's right after Cobs is defeated, and we have the moment of like, where was the real egg? And Box has it, and then like takes it out, and then the aliens come. And in the cut, it was just we just did not give enough breathing room for that moment. It went by so fast. So we did like extend it, and like there's like a little bit of a loop that then happens, just because it was like it was not. It just is so like whoa. This is then just like going so fast. So that's probably then the biggest one where it's like like we'll sometimes make a little bit of a tweak and see if it can be somewhat hidden. But yeah, because that was one where it was just like, oh my god, it feels like we're just flying by, and like the like they like 1 second like it's Cobbs' defeat, and then the next then the aliens are already letting back down on the ground. So like we needed to do something there. So that was like an 11th hour change. But
that's a great example too. It seems so simple of just extend it a little here and there. It's fine. But it's so hard because the sequence is already animated. John's already completed the music for it. It's all timed. So Brian and I know we're really collaborating on this part. Brian essentially clipped it, set the timing, included like black spaces, and said, okay, this shot is this many frames. This shot is this many frames. I took that in Animate, extended all those portions. I had to make the characters walk a little longer, or the zoom had to be a little, whatever it was, it had to be reanimated a little bit. It wasn't as simple as extending it. Re-rendered, sent back to Brian, and John's beautiful, perfect music. We weren't going to touch that, so we had to find a creative way, and Brian was able to move things around a little bit to create that space. but there were so many moving parts to something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It took hours.
Yeah. And
Thank you
it
for your
purely is for the
efforts.
reason. It's purely for the reason of just, oh, the vibes are a little off. It's not even like it's a
Right.
glaring error necessarily. Like people maybe like they wouldn't even like key in on it of like, oh, that feels rust. But like it would like in the grand experience of the thing maybe feel off. And like so
Yeah, but
it's
if the
like
vibes are off,
the
like
vibes are off.
Yeah.
you can't. I know the feeling. You can't sleep at night if the vibes are off.
No.
That's what I was trying to say with the Cobs music of why I was so proud about it is because like every time I tried to start, I mean like probably 8 different iterations of that music that aren't even remotely close to what it ended up sounding like, and every single time I would get like 20 seconds in maybe and try to like play it back and see how I felt, and every time I was like, nah, the vibes are off, and you know like that's a testament to your artistry because like that is the skill that you have to like hone by being bad for so long, is that like the curation of your own confidence of what is and is not a good vibe, like you know that is the development of the inner artist, so to speak. Like you know there are YouTube videos of me being like 10 years old and just absolutely god awful at the bass, but like you know the I didn't
That's
know the vibes were
why
off yet.
I say embrace the suck, because it's something that obviously is a part of the lore of the show now. Of like, you know, and I think that's a great way to embrace that we all overcome challenges and we all learn and grow by making a lot of mistakes. You know, it's the only way you get better at anything. You have to practice, practice, practice. So I think it's good that we're, you know, really, you know, taking it all in the lore of the show. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
This is a good question from Pickles.
Wow.
Hello, will there be a BFDI meetup next year? Pickles, we don't have any firm confirmation, but I think it's safe to say there will be something for sure next year. So if you want to come out to an event, the chance is not over.
Yeah. Want to show that I think Limon has asked a bunch of things. So Nickel's saying sorry to Suitcase when they didn't even talk. I thought they would, considering what happened on season 3. And this to me is like kind of getting back at this idea that we talked about earlier of that, like not everything ends up all sunshine and rainbows. To me, it's very important that not everyone has this wonderful resolution where then they hug it out at the end. Like obviously Nickel and Balloon have been able to, you know, like kind of deal with everything that happened in the past and grow together, but that doesn't mean that Suitcase has to do the same thing. And I think a very important theme overall in the movie is that, and Mike kind of lays this out, is this idea of apologize. You don't apologize because you want to then hear, like, you don't want just to get it accepted and to then feel better about yourself. You say it because it's the right thing to do. So ultimately, yeah, like even if Nickel were to do this at a point, it shouldn't be for the end goal of, oh, well, now they will be the best of friends. Not everyone is going to be the best of friends, as Suitcase even says at the end, like, oh, like the new community that'll form is one that it won't be, not everyone necessarily will see each other, but they can if they want to. So it's very much this thing of like, yeah, like not everything can be healed, so to speak, but that's just kind of a part of life. And you know, by Mike Taco rather maybe isn't going to be able to patch things up with Pickle, but there's clearly a chance with Microphone. So two sides of the same coin.
I think that was good too to include in the Nickel apology to Balloon in episode 16 of season 3, was that he does acknowledge in that apology that he understands if Balloon doesn't forgive him. You know, and it kind of shows the growth that he has as a character, is that, you know, if he doesn't forgive him, then he has every right not to, but he just wanted to apologize because he felt it was right. And now Justin continued.
Oh, no, yeah, you're good. Brian brought up the community aspect, and that was such a huge part of like constructing the finale, because we knew that we needed to hit an endpoint of like, you know, now once we're past the whole we are severed from me life, like what do we have left? And then that, you know, we were able to tie in Suitcase wanting to be away from everything and Knife's struggle with that then came about and new life as a ghost, and that kind of ties all together in this form of we need to be there for each other. We need to be there to support each other. That's, you know, and that's exemplified in the Red Line game. That's how they're able to survive together with unity. But also when they escape, it's so important that the ghosts who are like locked into a certain perimeter, to be able to feel alive in a way that but we've exemplified with Bo in the past. Let's build a new world right here in this space where everyone can be included. And that was such a huge thing. So I'm glad that we were able to get all together, because Knife and Suitcase, that wasn't always going to be their endpoints, but we wanted to make sure that we found stuff that tied all together in a way that really fit the theme of the season. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. And yes, do we want to? I know not everyone's seeing this, but should we jump to a little like reveal before we wrap things up here today?
Ooh, I like that. I think that's fun. A reveal of the you're saying the Plushy poll results.
You won me over. It could be. I'm open to fun.
Well, Justin, this is what you get for revealing the trailer against our wishes. Okay?
You did.
How we called many times. We were like, Justin, don't do it. And he did
I'm
it.
still furious about that unplanned action of yours.
It was absolutely disgusting. And so you're unfortunately going to have to deal with
a little
reveal.
Justin just likes to have fun. Can't they have
How dare you give the viewers what they want? How dare you? Terrible.
That is the opposite of what we stand for on this channel. You should
exactly. And now on to the results. All right. Well, John, you don't know the answer. So do you have a guess? Give me three guesses. The most voted.
Wow.
For context, this was a blowout. The winner received 27.6% of the votes.
Dang.
Second place received 19.6%.
Okay, I'm going back to look. Okay, so I think my top three are pretty set. So I'm gonna just rapid fire it. I think OJ, toilet, and and Cobs. Those are the three I'll guess.
All right. Unfortunately, John, none of those are
None
correct.
of them?
None of them were
Darn.
number one. I'll give you
too
one
old.
more chance.
No, I'm too old.
All right.
I chose the one that I would like. I guess baseball.
No.
Right.
Now, granted, all of those characters could be number two, so I'm not indicating where they placed on this poll. I'm just saying none of them were number one. With, again, 27.5% of the vote, the winner was Mead.
Woo! Hey!
It was a steamroll.
I appreciate all of your supports. It means a lot.
Whoa!
So-
I guess you did do the voice again.
So,
okay,
yeah.
and yes, that was canon just now.
True.
It happened from inside, whatever is left within Mead.
It's a voice memo.
Well,
I'm
you know what
seeing a
will be
lot of-
left?
Yeah.
A beautiful plushie, because Mead won the poll, we will absolutely make a Mead plush. So he will be coming in the future. Hooray!
Oh, many people are very happy. This is good. I've seen, the campaigns have been strong. Mead 2025. I've been seeing it. So,
Oh wow! There you go.
Yes. So the public can be appeased at long last.
Well, and I also want to confirm, just because we're making Mead, it doesn't confirm we won't make anyone else. So we're just saying he won, and he will guaranteed get one.
No, the polls still matter. If you're in line, stay in line.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Going with the 2025, campaigning.
Go for
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. No, I mean, I mean, to that end, I guess we could celebrate with a Mead related question about the fact that Taco was singing Mead's melody in II. Was it intentional or just because it sounded better? That was a Ben Cross decision. And I thought it was a really brilliant choice. I think, again, it's sort of similar to the idea of Mephone 4 taking on the Mead role a little bit in relationship with 3GS. Now Taco being able to take on the lessons.
Someone needs to sing Mead's part.
Yeah. Someone's got to carry on the legacy. So
it was really beautiful. And again, huge shout out to Ben for writing II as well as Taco's tirade. And the future is so yesterday. All just incredible songs, such bops. Also want to give a shout out to Adam and Hunter for the instrumental and mixing work there. It was just beautifully done. And Reagan singing as Taco, always brilliant.
Yes.
So really
good.
a star-studded team.
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh.
So we can stick around till 8. Why not? We'll give it 8 more minutes.
Yeah, we got to
All right,
shout out.
Final super chats, everybody.
Because did we mention? I mean, like, shout out also to Anthony and Olivia for the other 2 songs of finale. Three songs in one episode. Like, we pulled out all the stops, and they did. Oh my goodness. What I love about each of the songs is they're all so different, but they all really, I think, succeed in what they're going for. So
good.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you guys about that since I don't do much for the I guess you could say musical numbers. Is there any direction from y'all of like, oh, we want like The Future Is So Yesterday, we want this to be like, I don't want to say a commercially jingle, but we want it to be more up tempo, or the beginning of episode 18, how much do you go so far as to dictate the genre, or do you just say the emotions and then they pretty much, like me, have the freedom to choose?
It varies from song to song, because The Future Is So Yesterday is like, I had written most of the lyrics for that like 10 years ago. So that one's been, awesome. So that one's been kind of rattling around for a while, and like it was meant to be like in that sort of then genre, but of course, like in terms of like producing it and making it to something that actually like sounds amazing, then that really then falls to Ben. With something like, Karma Waits or Make Your Own Reality, that's a lot more just kind of like giving the vibe and the tone of like, I think for Karma Waits, it was like, hey, this is sort of like the heartbreaking ode that begins the episode. It's sort of paying off like the really disturbing cliffhanger that we left off with at the end of Act 2. This is the When She Loved Me, Toy Story 2, Jesse's song type moment of the story, where we're just kind of really in the low point, where like a cello, I think, is something really important. I gave like a very specific reference to a song from Hoodwinked on that, of like, I love how the cello sounds in this, so like there's
Big
some
Hoodwinked fan over here. Yeah.
Yeah, really? Oh, there you go.
I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Dude, yeah, so the Red is
It is
Blue
pretty
song,
iconic.
when she's like walking through at the end. Yeah, that's kind of one of the vibes, the inspirations. Yeah.
Do you also, for instance, I thought the visuals in that, look, I just thought that was incredible. Karma Waits specifically, I thought that was like really incredible and really touching to open up with. And I thought that the minimal instrumentation, at least to start with, before we get the swells and stuff, I thought it really fit the environment and the I don't want to say desolate landscape, but the emptier landscape post everything else dissolving. Were there any visuals given, or were there time frames like, oh hey, we need the music to be about 2 minutes long or about 3 minutes long?
That was a whole thing. I know I gave like an early skeleton to Charlie, who boarded thing of like, maybe this happens here or this happens there, but they totally took it in their, like, he totally had it in his own direction, and I thought it was just amazing. Like, came up, and then Adam brought it to like, animated the whole sequence of Karma Waits. So
I think in terms of the song, we just gave notes on tone. We gave the materials for 16 and 17 that we had made thus far for context, but generally we're like, hey, we know you're going to do a good job, do your thing, and we're excited for more of your arts to exist.
For sure. I think, that's the challenge. There's so many amazing, talented people on this team. I feel like part of being a good director too, it's striking that balance between obviously providing direction, but also believing in your team to create what they're great at. And at least for me, I know I'm not good at, right? So I don't want to overimpose and give feedback that even if I think it's what I want, I know like it isn't, right? So that's part of it too. And Anthony obviously wrote a beautiful song with that sequence, and Charlie provided incredible board work. I loved all the experimental imagery that he created, and I was really nervous to animate all of it. I was genuinely nervous, and I told Anthony too, because you have to ping through frame by frame, obviously, when you're animating. Every frame counts, and I was like, I'm still not bored of this song. Like, I love it, even after spending hours and hours with it. And there was towards the end of the production cycle, I was going a little stir crazy from staring at my laptop for so many hours. And I had this moment where I'm like, I need to get out of here. And I literally got on my sneakers and I ran like 3 miles just around the whole neighborhood. And I literally listened to the song, that and I on repeat back and forth for the whole run. So even though I physically needed to escape this realm, I mentally could not pull the plug.
You were still tied too.
I was.
Wow.
The wire has not been pulled.
No, yeah. So that's how I was with the songs, especially as we were building Make Your Own Reality and like pulling together all the great takes that we had from Angela. It was just like listening to it again and again and really living with it. And again, and for Olivia, it's really just something where it's like you give the thesis statement of what the story is about, and you give like insight into the script, and you're just sort of like, hey, here's what then it's then a part of. You go do your thing and make it beautiful in the way that you will. So you have to have that trust that they're going to, you bring them on for a reason, for them to be what they are. So, you can only dictate so much at the end of the day.
Yeah. So much. I mean, this show is everyone involved. And we've always said that, and we always believe it. Like it takes everyone. Want to shift over here from Fura.
Oh, yes.
When will the II-18 songs get released on Spotify? And I have good news.
This is our little send-off question here, because it also matches some good news I hear.
What's the good news?
First of all, you can. What's the news anyway? Yeah, you can listen to Karma Waits right now on Anthony Koch's Spotify, and I mean, I feel like on all streaming platforms, or at least a lot of them. So I definitely recommend listening to that. But I think, John, we have a next mission, of course, with the soundtrack. I think we have to get working on an album release.
15 through 18, perhaps?
It'll be 15 through 18, right? But we should probably just like, I mean, maybe this is for off-camera stuff, but we should probably just call it like movie soundtrack release, right? Because it's almost a bit anticlimactic to call it, 15, 16, 17, 18. Like, we should just say, like movie with 15 as a bonus track, because I won't lie to you, I actually can't remember if there were any defined. I think 15, I remember talking to Adam, was like one of the hardest for me to write for, because it was so dialogue heavy that there was just it was I know, like, understandably it was setting up all the stuff happening in the movie, and it needed to happen, but man, it was something.
You really did a brilliant job, and it's so hard. That episode was so specific because you're coming back to a season after taking so much time off, and there's so many things to get back into, and we think immediately of like the visuals and like, obviously our amazing background designer Sean Thurlow, who does all of the painterly background art. He is immensely talented. Also, shout out to Top Hat the Hat, Laszlo for creating just beautiful backgrounds too. All of Hotel OJ and Mephone's Inner Subconscious, The Void, all beautiful work. But obviously the music is a huge part of that as well. And that musical identity, I know you spent a lot of time too with the elimination theme, right? There's a clear, distinct elimination theme between seasons 2 and 3. They're different. So that was a great sequence. You were talking before about things that had changed musically. I think immediately of the Lightbulb and paintbrush sequence when Lightbulb steps off the platform. Yeah. That was something musically that we had played around with too.
And so I guess that goes into like, I remember I put it on like Twitter and Instagram when we did season 3, but to answer some of this question, like, if you have a musical moment that you liked from season 2, episode 15, 16, 17, or 18, from the movies, from Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, if you have it, tell us, but most importantly, tell me. But can I plug my stuff, or is that like?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. I think I'm literally just John Meadus on Twitter. Like, I think it's very boring. I made it when I was in like high school, or maybe middle school. Like, John JOHN Meadus MIETUS. Just at me and show me stuff. Funky bass guy is what I go as in most other places. And the perfect thing is, like, I love this moment in season 2, episode 16. And it happens here, because then I can just say, I can go back into my Logic file and get it. And if you put enough smiley faces, what'll usually happen is I'll also like compose a bit more to like make it a fuller track. You know,
Ooh, okay.
like for the season 3 soundtrack, I remember I think probably like a third of those tracks are extended editions because a lot of times the sound cues, while they're cool, they may only happen for like 20 seconds.
Right.
And I'll either loop or just slightly adjust the endings for those 20 seconds if I reuse them. And so uh one of my favorite sound cues from season 3 was when they're trying to get rid of the floor, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
oh, it's such a banger, right? But I had to merge the two tracks because there's like dialogue in between and stuff. So like if you give me a time code or make a suggestion, 99% of the time I will include it, and then like 60% of that 90% I'll actually make an extended version. So like
Nice.
you specifically could have more of your favorite music if you annoy me enough and bother me enough about these things. So thank
We'll
you.
definitely
Okay,
put out
I
a social
will.
blast.
Well, I mean,
Thanks,
speaking of extended, there's rumors of an extended version of the II song.
I don't know. The outro, like similarly with Bright Lights, actually, I hold them both in
Oh.
such what? You what?
We're referring to something different than what you think we're referring to. We're
good,
talking about
okay.
the group number that's called II. There's an extended. Yes, we'll have an extended version of that. But please say whatever you were gonna say.
Yeah, what were you thinking
We
of?
love your words
That's actually
too.
really funny because I've been asked quite a lot recently. That's why my mind went there. I've been asked quite a lot recently to do an extended version of the "Don't Leave Me Until I Find My Way Back to You."
Yes.
But I
love
have
Such a
to
good one
say,
though.
I probably won't because I really enjoy like when we were talking about like a movie's never finished, it's just released. I've heard
Yeah.
the same thing about compositions, whether it's a symphony or a concerto or just like a song. And so I feel like those few moments, like Test Tube Tango, Bright Lights, they're really going for it. You see, Don't Leave Me Until I Find My Way
Yeah.
Back to You. These, even though they're shorter, uh, when I finally capture that feeling of no, I'm content with this, or no, this is saying what I want it to say, I never want to touch it again
It's
because
frozen in ember.
They're already perfectly crafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least I don't want to think about their imperfections.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, this gets into a lot of people are like, oh, why not just release it? Just do it right now. Just put it out there. There's actually a lot of thought and care that goes into just, merely uploading them. And so an album release is not as simple as hitting the upload button.
Oh yeah. Could I actually say something about that? Because like I didn't even realize how much work putting out a soundtrack would be until I worked with y'all and did the season
Sure.
episode 14 soundtrack. Because most of these audio clips, most of the music in the show is not mixed to be heard by itself, and it's not like
right.
cut and the intro and the outro and the not almost there are very few tracks that can just be copy pasted bada boom bada bing into an album. And so quite often most of the times when I'm extending a song, it's simply just to actually make it work. Otherwise you'd be surprised at how awkward some things sound without
Sure.
the FX or the voice actors. So yeah, I can't give a deadline. Yeah, I can't give a deadline. Probably 2025, if unless I get again a lot of smiley faces and pleases, and then maybe who knows what we get for Christmas.
I think we could take a little time to polish it up. There's
Thanks.
no rush.
Thanks.
No, yeah, for sure. But yeah, point being, we'll get it out there, everyone. Don't worry.
Yes.
Well, awesome. This was incredible. Like, I want to thank everyone in the community so much who joined us for this live stream. Over 3 hours of fun over here. Maybe the longest live stream we've ever done, question mark? Maybe?
No, it's not.
No?
In
Is it not?
2020, remember when we did the charity stream? That was done.
Oh, yeah, that was longer. Yeah, that's true. It's the longest one in recent memory. Definitely this year.
Yeah. when it's like full on discussion also, and not like we're doing drawings at the same time. Probably
True. Or doing voices. It's hard to be in character for that long. I find it. I had a lot of fun, but it's just more challenging to stay on that long.
Processing fun.
That was just so fun.
Yeah, playing
great.
Adam, Brian, Justin those were big stretches for us as actors. So
We'll switch roles next time just to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ugh,
All
good.
right, we could wrap it up. I'll have
Anyone
to
have any
say
closing
goodbye
words?
to my little pals. I'm gonna have to say goodbye and thank you for all the love and support on the second season. And we it was a really emotional experience wrapping that all up. And now I could experience it as a viewer, which is a really weird, bizarre experience as opposed to just someone who's looking for little things to tweak here and there. Oh gosh. Y'all are the best. We should hang out some more, you know?
It truly is a dream come true. I love you all, and it's like it genuinely it felt like for me this was something where it was like putting this out there was like, wow, if this was it, and I'm not just talking about whatever. I was like, if this was it in terms of like the last piece of art that I was involved with, I would be satisfied, you know, because I was like, I would know, like it was just everything. I think everyone brought their A game into it and really put their heart and soul into it. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it. And yeah, like we really couldn't have done it without all of your love and support. So just I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I'll let Adam wrap it up, of course. But Adam, Brian, Justin, thank you guys so much for allowing me to be a part of this journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already talked to Adam a little bit about it, but to realize that like we're approaching half a decade together. I know y'all have done so much more, but like for me to look back and realize how much time we've been able to spend together and the art we've been able to create together, it means a lot. And for all of you, like whether it's through notes or me bugging you in private DMs or whatever, like all three of you being so supportive of the art and the process and whatever complications may arise, and then like people in chat and the fans online. I mean, just like every time I see even a mention of like of the OST or the soundtrack or whatever, like it makes my heart so full. And this has been such a fulfilling project for me. And again, like the ride's not over, but it's been fun, and it's been something I'll cherish deeply. So thank you.
Oh man, the love is absolutely returned. And John, we're actually coming up on a full decade of being friends, which is kind of crazy. We're almost there.
Almost there. It'll be what, probably August or September of 2025 then.
Yeah, coming up close, which is amazing. And we clearly could not have done this without you. So seriously, like, thank you for everything that you contributed towards this, because it's unbelievable. And yeah, everyone, again, like, we're just so immensely thankful for all your support. We always say, like, this is your show. Like, yes, we're directing it, animating it, you know, but it's your show, and we could not do this without you. So thank you so much. I guess we're closing it out. How are we closing it out? Should we do something crazy? Should we all hit the gritty? Is that the way we end?
I think now that you said it, we got
now that you said it, it's gotta be
Now
done.
would be the
Should we
time to
like
do
get up
so.
and like hit the gritty?
I follow the lead of you, Adam. Whatever.
I don't
you
know
want.
how to hit the gritty. I can't even tell you.
Believe
I'm not
me,
sure.
I don't, believe me.
We
I
can
don't think
wave
any
the
of us
gritty.
know.
the
We can, like,
gritty.
hit the gritty.
Yeah, come on. This is what they've been waiting for.
Congratulations, James. Like, I'm so excited
This is
for
really,
you.
This is for
it's
you,
your
James.
show.
James,
It's
it's your show. It's your show.
yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
It's amazing.
Okay.
Have a good one, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
bye.